Welcome to the Weekly Whiff podcast, episode number 29. It has been 9 long months since my good friend and partner in crime, Shaun, from 28 Posts Later, and I decided to sit down over this wondrous invention we call the internet and have a conversation about what the fuck's up in entertainment, media, and stuff we're interested in.
Yeah, Pete went on a massive quest to find me in the Trolls Cave and bring me back to civilization to make us record again.
Manifestly failed. He just eventually stuck his head out and just went,
yeah. I just eventually decided, fuck it, it's boring in there. Just came back out.
Entirely fair, dude. Entirely fair. All right, so I would hesitate to ask how your week has been, but it's been more than a week. Slightly more than a week.
Exactly. Yeah, we don't need weekly recaps. I think this whole episode's like a recap of what we've done throughout the year and it consumed, so it'll be fine in that regard.
How much we've changed as people, grown our character arcs and how they're going, what volume of the manga we're up to in our lives.
Yeah, but basically that at the end, but yeah, I haven't changed at all. I've just regressed more as if anything.
That's entirely fair, dude.
I do have a list of films, games, anime, and manga that I've read for that I can talk about for the year. I was going to say we could start with films if we do want to go in some kind of order. If you have things to talk about with films as well, or if you want to just go off of whatever I say.
Yeah, that's all good. I have three categories actually. I did some prep work for this podcast, which is a bit out of character for me. But yeah, I actually did some prep. Yeah, and
nice.
I had good stuff, mid stuff, and bad stuff.
That's basically what I have as well. I have hated, liked, and loved. That's basically it.
Fair enough, dog. Fair enough. So I don't know. Do we want to start with the good and get into the bad at the tail end, or do we want to start with the bad, or do we want to start with the mid?
Let's start with the bad.
The bad? Okay. Keep it entertaining.
I want to get it out of the way, because for the two films I watched, I think they're fucking... I have two films in my hated category, which I thought was dreadful.
I guarantee you mine are worse. I guarantee it.
Oh, I don't know. I think these two films are, terrible. But you may watch some real garbage as well, so who knows? But
dude, you're not ready for this, Shaun. You're gonna piss yourself laughing at me, though. But please proceed. By all means,
I'll start then.
Get after it.
So, two films I watched this year that I thought were just terrible, pure garbage. Was both of them were sequels to franchises, actually. Funnily enough, I watched Jurassic World Dominion and Halloween Ends. Both of those films were garbage. I think they're terrible for it's funny because they're both terrible sequels to a franchise that probably should just be laid to rest at this point. But they're kind of terrible for different reasons entirely. Jurassic World Dominion was just that film was bizarre. It's not the worst one of the new trilogy. I think the second one in the new trilogy was way worse. This film was just fucking hilarious. Me and two friends were in the cinemas watching it. And there was a couple behind us. I felt so bad for the couple because we were just cracking jokes the whole time, the whole film, and being so obnoxious the whole time. And as we left, I was talking to my friends, feel bad for the couple behind us. He's like, you're fucking scumbag. You ruined that couple's date night probably. But
probably, dude.
Jurassic World, I've said this to everyone. There's only one good Jurassic Park movie. It's a series that continues to exist. Long past expiration date, and it's never really gotten anywhere close to the original. This one was just dreadful. I thought it was just stupid and hilarious. There's a literal bit in the movie where they have this kind of podium thing, just so that you know what kind of film this is. But they have a circle kind of podium thing, and then in the end of the film, the T-Rex walks behind it and literally does it's the logo shot of the T-Rex in the circle and roaring and all that, and it's just whoa, isn't that cool, guys? It's the thing. So bad, just so laughably bad. All the actors in it, it feels none of them are really trying that hard either. And they got all the returning cast as well, so it's just God, you guys must have just been paid to do this and then left. And Pete is fucking hilarious.
Oh my! Dude, I genuinely, I think we were talking about this a while back when it came to Hollywood and just not letting movie series die.
Yeah.
And this is I think a premium example, right? Like, it's just a case of I haven't watched any of the Jurassic Park movies, the later ones. I haven't seen. I refuse to, because like
They're not worth it.
I was never much of a dinosaur kid. I thought the original was pretty cool, like when I was 12, but I never went like, yeah, I'm really into Jurassic Park and I'm so keen for the new movies coming out. Isn't there some kind of like soft apocalypse that happens in the third film?
Yeah, let the dinosaurs out and they're like running around. The thing is, that like sounds cool, but in the movie it's not even nearly cool enough for that. It's so lame. Like, you only see it in the first 5 minutes and then like everything else is just like boring. It may as well not be an apocalyptic world. They don't take advantage of like the fact that there are literal dinosaurs running around the earth. Like, enough, like, at all, considering everything. It's just stupid. So stupid.
And as if, like, even just, there's an expression, like, the suspension of disbelief. Like, it's the classic thing, right?
Yeah.
And it's just that idea that, hey, okay, this is your premise. And so with fiction, most of the time you've got to stretch the suspension of disbelief a little bit. You've got to go, okay, we've got this concept, right? And so the original concept of Jurassic Park is hilarious. Like, it really does stretch. It beggars belief. We resurrected dinosaurs and then we made a theme park out of it. Like, that in and of itself is insane. And that's
it's fucking bizarre.
If you're telling me now, I've just heard about it tangentially, but it's like, yeah, dinosaurs are now running amok over the planet and like wrecking shit. And
the
I'm
thing
like,
with this series as well is that, like, at a certain point, I can't believe that they'd keep going back to the island. Like, it's been like 5 movies and they keep going back to fuck with the dinosaurs when like literally nothing good has ever come of it. At a certain point, I'm like, I don't think humans are this dumb. I think after the 5th time, they'd probably just nuke it, like, by then. Like, for sure. Like, they just nuke the island. Yeah, and just, like, destroy the island, eradicate all.
Do you know what the funniest thing is, right, about that situation? Is that you nuke the island, they all get irradiated and mutate into, like, Godzilla, and then you've actually got a good film.
Yeah, fucking Godzilla Island.
Yeah, exactly. Like, you've got a good film out of that. Yeah, but like that film would be interesting, right? Like, at least at that point, it's like, okay, Jurassic Park 5, the nuclear solution, and then after that, like Jurassic Park 6 is just kaiju, and then you're like, okay,
that would fucking get in. That would get in the views. I'd watch them.
100% you would. And this is the thing, right? Like, it's just the dumbest shit ever. But even as like on a basic tier level, like, I'll watch Chris Pratt fuck it up against irradiated dinosaurs from Jurassic Park that actually have superpowers at that point. Like, I'd watch that, dude, because if the Fast and Furious franchise can continue, they jumped the shark a long time ago. Like, I mean, long time ago. If they can jump the shark at a certain point, like, if we're going to keep making these movies, you got to lean into it. You cannot expect the audience to sit there and go, oh yeah, this had actually happened. Like, we're into this and we're going to take this serious. It's like, dude, what are you doing? Anyway, I'm sorry. Halloween Ends.
Halloween Ends, I don't have a lot to say on because I think that film is just terrible. I think that's actually the worst film of the year that I've seen. It's like the whole time they've been hyping up like a whole like a climax between like Michael Myers and Laurie Strode's like the main character of the first film and like played by Jamie Lee Curtis, who's the original actress. And Jamie Lee Curtis is an amazing woman. She seems hilarious, and I don't want to send any hate towards her for this film. I just think that like this film was shit in terms of how it handled it. Because like the film opens and it focuses on some like kid who accidentally killed another kid that he was babysitting, and he's the villain of the film. Like, I shit you not, this is gonna sound bizarro to anyone who doesn't watch Halloween and just is passing by.
I don't.
But like,
I got no idea, bro.
I kid you not, the kid that like is the new villain of this film, he stumbles upon like a sewer system where he finds Michael Myers, who was hiding after the last film, and they literally like transfer like evil or something. Like, he looks into his eyes and the kid gets all of like the Michael Myers strength seemingly and inherits his like killing will or something. And he starts going around like killing people, and Michael Myers is like helping him, and it focuses on this stupid like loser kid for a while. And then the last 10 minutes of the film are actually like Laurie Strode's fighting Michael Myers. It's so stupid. It's so terrible. And like the film is like none of the characters are likable. They're so annoying. All the gore is like bad as well. So if that's like the only thing you're interested in a slasher film, you're not getting that. It was such a boring piece of shit film. The scariest thing that happened throughout that whole film was when I was watching it with a friend in the cinemas, we heard a noise behind us in the row behind us, and for the rest of the film, we kept looking back to make sure nothing was behind us. That was the scariest moment of the whole film for me. Something that wasn't even in the film.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm following. That's not good cinema.
Yeah, no, it's awful. Like the whole time, even since the last film, they've been hyping up the climactic fight between like Laurie Strode and Michael Myers, and then it's just, yeah, I don't know what they were thinking. I don't know why you would think that in the final Halloween movie of the trilogy, you wouldn't want, like, the fans wouldn't want Michael Myers in it for like the majority of the film. It's such a bizarre decision. I don't get it. It's the most it's the most bizarre thing I've ever seen, where I just don't understand how they thought it would be good.
It's like a level, dude. You also got that question, like, we're going to take, how old is this kid? Is like a teenager, like some troubled young kid, or is it
He's like a teenager,
actual child? Oh, okay. I was going to say if it's an actual child, that'd be pretty.
No, it's not an actual child.
But,
That would be stupid.
Yeah. But I was thinking to myself, like, on what level, like, yeah, we need to have this young teenagers school shooter kind of vibe, and like have him running around and fucking shit up, and it's like a what are you trying to say here? Like that the teenage boys are somehow like evil loose cannons and they're gonna go crazy and do all this
it's got, like,
insane shit.
The message is kind of like, I think the films are kind of talking about like trauma from like past events and that. So you're like, the idea that fans have conducted is that it's about like putting evil in like a place, like putting evil upon someone who isn't inherently evil, because the kid wasn't a bad kid and it was an accident that like his initial murder caused, but because of like the paranoia of the town, it makes them just think he's evil and like condemn him like that. It's kind of going for that, which is interesting as an idea. But considering that it's in a Halloween movie where it's should be more about Michael Myers, and it's introducing this character out of nowhere, like he's never been mentioned before, it doesn't land. It's like no one wants to see this. No one is going to this film to watch this new kid run around killing people while Michael Myers is basically like an old man for half the film. Like it's a very odd decision in my opinion, and I don't get what they were going for. I understand the concept of what they were going for, but I don't get how that correlates to what they actually did and like why and how they went about it.
I'm hearing you. Getting wild. I don't like, as you know, I'm not big into horror films, but I think this is just kind of entrenching what we've talked about before, which is how sad it is when the like writers are literally. I want to talk about some fucking film writers in a second, and you're gonna laugh at me, but legit, like there is a point wherein you can only carry on with the original franchise for so far before it becomes zombified, like quite literally.
Yes, yeah.
Like wasn't there a whole Friday 13th where Jason became like a techno zombie Terminator thing?
Like Friday, Jason, like Friday, it's like Jason X or something. Yeah, it's like a fucking
literally they artificially resurrect him for some reason, and that's a hilarious meta moment on some level, because you're like, yeah, so by the way, we are literally resurrecting this franchise. Cyborg zombie Jason now, so we can keep getting money out of it, and people, I just don't. Anyway,
the thing is,
I don't know, man.
I find it cute back then because they were so creative in how they milked all these franchises, like Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, and Halloween. Back then, they did some bizarro shit to make the new movies fresh and keep them entertaining. Like Jason goes to fucking space, man. Like he's in space, and he becomes like a cyborg. It's like the most batshit insane shit. He used to just be like a fucking camp canceller, like a camp canceller killing fucking like mutant thing, like kind of weird looking kid. And so it's almost cute to me. But nowadays it's just kind of boring when they resurrect it, because it's not like there's anything new. They're just kind of retreading plot threads, and like it sometimes looks better, but sometimes it doesn't even look better. So it's like, that's what so I find it a little bit more annoying now, because it's always just the same thing. It's like, oh, let's bring them back. Let's make it more serious and edgy as well. And then a lot of the time it's just boring, because like the films weren't really that edgy back then. They were kind of just like dumb fun, and that was what was good about them.
And also they were creative, and I think that's the most important thing, right? It's like there's a level of creativity as opposed to the dead body in the sewer transfers his evil over to some kid, and then he becomes a victim of past trauma. You know, it's like, dude, even in the 70s and 80s, I don't know what they were smoking or snorting back then, but at least there was a level of creativity. They were like, okay, so get this, right? We're pitching this for a movie. Here's our concept. Here's how we're going to bring Friday the 13th back and make it relevant. Jason in space. Like, as ridiculous as that is aside, there's some creativity there. You're like, oh, fuck it, right?
Yeah,
like, maybe he can
exactly,
get some xenomorphs or some shit. Like, I'd be down. Jason versus a Predator. Like, yeah, let's do some crossover films. Let's make some money. Like, I don't hate that, dude. I don't hate that at all. But this kind of shit just sounds so fucking ridiculous. I'm like, oh my God. Yeah. So we're starting the film. Okay, how are we going to do this? We're going to go from film to games to blah, blah, blah. Are we going to do each category, or how are we going to roll it?
We'll do each category.
Okay.
Well, so what films did you hate? What were the ones that you hated
there's
this year?
there's like 2 or 3 of them that I wrote down, and I was giggling to myself when I looked at them. So I'm going to preface this with something, and that is that I never go out of my way to watch these kinds of films ever at all. This was not forced upon me. I was kind of an unwilling participant, and it just seemed like a good time. There was a couple of women involved. Okay.
Are we going to talk about rom-coms?
No. Oh, no, dude. This is so much worse.
Okay,
trust me.
Interesting.
Okay, so there is a Netflix trilogy that exists, okay? And it's called like 365 Days. Have you heard of this?
365 Days?
Yeah.
I have not heard of it, no.
Okay, no, this, dude, is... I cannot begin to describe to you how it is simultaneously peak existential horror as a writer. And like
I just like Googled it and saw that it had... I saw that it had like 3.3 on IMDb. I was like, oh boy.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So now here's the thing, right? This is where it gets better. I didn't watch the first one. I watched the last one in the trilogy. I had no context going into this. And I'm not going to lie to you, bro. I was inebriated. I was not going into that shit sober. As in, I got to the point where I saw the first 5-minute recap that covered what had gone down in the last 2 films. I immediately ran to the kitchen for shots. Okay? Like, this is the level we were at, because I was like, this cannot be a film. This cannot actually actively be a film. Now, do you want to hear the premise of this story?
Yeah, I'd like to hear the premise. Yeah.
Okay. 365 Days trilogy. Okay. Now, firstly, it's about this is dude, I can't begin to describe to you. I was having a rant about this to my friend. Like, I was actually having a moment, dude, of existential dread. This is how fucked this is. Okay. Now, continuing on. This is the cream of the crop. Like, this is the worst movie I've ever seen. Objectively, the worst. Like, it is amazing in how bad it is. But yeah. Okay, so the concept of the film is essentially some Polish bitch goes to like Sicily or some shit, or she's like Italy for a holiday, and then she gets kidnapped by some dark and mysterious crime lord, right? And then he says that I'm gonna hold you at my mansion for 365 days, and if you still don't love me by the end of that, I'll let you go free. So and this is supposed to be a love story. So just bearing this in mind. This is the premise of the entire thing. Now, dude, send me help, please. I'm going to need therapy after this, I swear to God. Okay, so continuing on. This happens. The woman falls in love. It's okay. No, by the way, this is basically like really, 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 really high budget soft pornography. I'm going to just lay that out there straight away.
Yeah, I got that vibe when I Googled it.
Not my idea, okay? But this is like and now this is what the kicker is. I didn't know this until halfway through the film when someone mentioned it to me, but I picked up on the vibes. This trilogy of movies that Netflix paid money for, right?
Yeah.
Is a fan fiction from Wattpad of 50 Shades of Grey.
Yeah, that makes sense.
No, bro. But it makes sense, but it doesn't make sense, okay? Because 50 Shades of Grey is a fan fiction. This is a fan fiction of a fan fiction. We are now 3 levels deep in the source now. This is not okay.
Yeah.
And then to say nothing of dude, we counted it. I had to count, bro. I lost count. I think we clocked out at 28 different licensed pieces of music throughout this film. There was not a single moment in that film, for the most part, where there wasn't some like hip hop or EDM thing playing. Like, there was just random songs just the whole way through everything. There's like supposed to be these moments that are emotionally uplifting, or there's like a real trauma, and there's just something going on, and there's just some like indie track or some like, you know, trying to be hot and heavy thing in the background, and there's just random like shit sprinkled in the middle of it. I had no context to nothing. I'm blind watching this. Like I've got no idea, no context, and that was the thing. I was trying so hard to follow the story because I couldn't deal with like, okay, random sex scene. It's been 5 minutes. We need to do something. Also, randomly, when she goes back to Poland to talk to her family, there's nuns at a cafe, just sitting there in Poland. And I'm just sitting there, dude. I could not believe this. I'm watching like full 360 long scan, like undercranked shots of like her sitting down with her cigarette smoking mother, trying to talk about how much she loves this crime lord who kidnapped her. And then she accused of cheating and broke up with for no reason. I'm not even going to try and get into how the story works. Like, I'm not even going to try and get into that, okay? Because it is nonsensical in the extreme. Literally at the start of this film, there's like all this history, and then they break up for some fucking reason after banging a bunch. And then she just sort of goes off to quote unquote find herself. And then he's like lingering in the background doing really dumb shit. And then at the end of it, all this stuff happens, and they're just sitting there on a beach looking at each other. And it's like, what now? And then the camera glides up over the fucking shore of this gorgeous Italian beach, and there's no answer. And the entire reason the fight happened in the first place was like, it was never explained. It was like, oh yeah, we're getting distant because I'm having fantasies about this dude who kidnapped me to an island to get me away from you. Dude, I could not grasp what the fuck I was watching. The only things in this thing's favor is that I was watching it, I was pissing myself laughing for the most part.
Yeah.
And then I literally hit a point where I'm like, I can't. Like, we watched the end of it. I saw it happen, and then I just completely lost my mind.
Nice. Sounds like a great film.
Oh, dude, it was actually the worst thing ever. I genuinely.
I just want to say.
Yeah.
I just want to say that when I Googled it and was looking at the Wikipedia pages, especially for the third film, but the Wikipedia pages had less effort put in with each film, and then on the third Wikipedia page, literally the first line under like all the fucking stupid bullshit at the top, like the first line is as with its predecessors, the film received negative reviews, and then that's basically it for the article. Like it's basically just like that's all there is.
It's like
no plot summary or anything.
Dude, Netflix was just dumping money to get away from taxes at this point. Like that's the only reason this film exists. I have no idea why. What the fuck's up? Like, I watched this film and I just went, I could not for the life of me believe it. Because I was like, there are now people at Netflix who will pay for a fan fiction of a fan fiction. There is a 14-year-old girl who wrote a fan fiction on Wattpad that got a bunch of, views because teenagers be horny, I guess. And then it got turned into what had to be millions of dollars worth of production on Netflix. And then was critically panned. Completely.
I think...
I don't even know who the target audience is, bro. Like,
all this is telling me is that I think that if you and I put our minds together, we could make like a Kaiju Island fucking theme park movie and just propose it to Netflix, and they'd probably fund it for us.
And here's the thing, bro. I want to get the guy who made Sharknado to fucking direct that, because it would be...
Yeah. If you stumble upon this podcast, let us know.
I watched the second Sharknado film, and I actually don't have anything bad to say about it at all. That was just great. Sharknado is just amazing. Like, watch it if you haven't. It's great if you're just doing dumb shit and you want to turn your brain off. Like, if you actively want to laugh at a bad movie, watch Sharknado 2. It's just good goddamn. It's like literally called Sharknado 2, and then underneath the tagline is the second one.
Nice. See, I think I've seen that actually. Yeah.
You don't need to worry about it. The other movie that I watched was this thing called After, and I had no idea what the fuck this was either. But essentially, it's a Harry Styles fan fiction made into a movie. And when the movie titles opened up with Wattpad Studios, I went, I'm gonna actually lose my mind, dude. Like, I could not conceptualize the fact that there's literally people making money out of fan fiction turning into films. Like, Fifty Shades of Grey. I was like, okay, that exists. But this is like another level. I was just like, I don't understand what the fuck this is or how the fuck this is going down. And so I became convinced, and I kid you not, for like a full 6 months, that literally everything in Hollywood is now run by fan fiction writers. There are 14-year-olds getting $1 million contracts to make films now. I just completely lost me. I was like, I can't believe this is real. And so that was it. Anyway, those are the worst films I saw this year, bar none. After it's a Harry Styles fanfiction, it's supposed to be
what you're talking about. They sound like class to me.
Oh my fucking god, dog! I could not. I could watch it with you purely to laugh at it. Like just.
I don't think I could watch it. It sounds fucking awful.
No, dude, you can't. Like you will go. Yeah. Oh yeah, like
you had the advantage of being drunk. You had the advantage of being drunk. I don't get that advantage. Like when watching it, I actually just have to sit there and watch it.
Oh my god, no, I do. I could not recommend that movie to anybody sober. Like in any sense, you can't. You can't do it, bro. Like no.
Yeah, it sounds like that.
It was for a girl's birthday, and it was how her and her friend bonded. And I was like, well, I'll sit down as I'm the invader here on this couch, and I'll watch this. And I don't think I could not get it out of my head. Not like the film itself, but just what it did to my brain for like 3 months. Like it actually fucked with me. Like I need therapy because of this film. So yeah, those are like the worst films I saw this year. Also, no. Well, I have an honorable mention. An honorable mention is that we tried to sit down and watch one of the Power Rangers Christmas specials.
Nice. That would have been better.
No, dude. I did genuinely also have an existential crisis. No, okay. But dude, I have never seen Power Rangers. Okay? I think I might have watched the movie, maybe like the old early 2000s one, when I was like 7. But I have never seen Power Rangers. I watched this shit, dude. And I was like, dude, I was like, this is literally A-grade capitalism right here. Yeah. Like, I ain't got no issue with people making money, but I watched it, dude. It was like, here's this guy. He's going to go talk to African children about the meaning of Christmas and talk about his friends, the Power Rangers. And it's just chopped up footage from past episodes laid over the top with these incredibly obviously like
Christmas specials are terrible.
Dude, I was like, I'd never seen it before. I was like, yes, Power Rangers, whatever, Robot Man is going to teach us the true meaning about Christmas, and he just flies to Africa to talk to like African children. And I was just like, I couldn't conceptualize it. I was like, we literally had to shut it down halfway through. I was like, I can't sit through this. Like I managed, and I was still drinking too. I couldn't do it. You're a
bunch of fucking losers. No, I don't blame you. Christmas specials are never good. They're always fucking garbage.
Dude, I could not. I went. It was so obvious to me. I was like, I understand, because this was all used to sell toys back in the day, and it was like,
absolutely,
this makes sense. Like, it's absolutely just a vehicle for profit. Like the entire reason Power Rangers exists is to sell toys. And I was like, I get it. Like I get it. They lean into that now. That to me is still more pure and interesting and creative than this other garbage that was on Netflix. You have to go looking for the Power Ranger Christmas special, bro. The fucking this 365 day shit is just advertised on Netflix. Probably not anymore, but it was. Just lost my mind. Anyway, those are the worst things I saw this year. I'm sorry. I'm sweating. I think I need a drink of water.
In terms of films that I liked this year, before I talk about I have 3 listed. I don't want to talk about the 2 of them just yet because I can probably group them up, and I don't want to spend too long on films. But I don't know if I did talk about Scream when I watched it earlier this year, but I thought Scream was a very good film. The 5th one.
I thought did talk about it. It was on the last pod, yeah.
Yeah. So then I won't talk too much about it, but I still like it. I think it's a pretty good film. I'll be seeing the 6th one as well when it comes out in a few months, but I have less hope for that one. But we'll see how it goes.
I actually rewatched the first Scream movie this year too.
Nice. Yeah. It's I watch it every now and then pretty consistently. It's a fucking hilarious film. I love it so much.
I forgot. I actually didn't realize this, but that one of the psycho kids in Scream is like Shaggy from the action movie.
I made 2 of my friends,
and you're like, dude, I had no idea.
I made 2 of my friends watch the Scooby-Doo live action film early on this year as well. It was fucking hilarious film.
I had to sit through that as well.
I'm not getting that film. So funny, but yeah, we won't get into it. 2 other films that I liked. I'm just gonna say one of them is just kind of grouping all the Marvel movies together. I thought all the Marvel movies that came out this year were completely mediocre. I'm only watching them because I'm watching them with a friend. Like whenever they come out, me and a friend go to the cinemas and watch them. That's the only reason I'm watching it. Out of all of them, Doctor Strange is probably the one I liked the most. I thought that was visually interesting, and I found that one fun. But in terms of superhero movies that came out this year, I think The Batman was easily the best one. in terms of like tone and everything. But I don't have too much to say on superhero films right now.
Yeah, that's on my list of stuff that I thought was good too. Actually, the Batman was not.
Yeah, I thought the Batman was quite enjoyable. I think it loses me a bit at the end when it isn't as like kind of gritty mystery thriller anymore, and it kind of becomes just like an action like set piece at the end. But before that, I thought it was a really good film. Robert Pattinson's doing a great job of redeeming himself after Twilight, and I'm glad that he's getting more attention because he's a fantastic actor. He deserves all the praise he gets, and he was really good in this. I really liked it. I thought it was a good film.
I quite enjoyed it. I have issues with it too. I mean, I know you and I both probably got issues for different reasons.
I definitely have a lot to say on Marvel films, but I'm saving that for a future episode because that's like a topic I had written down. And I think it'd be interesting to talk about Marvel films and Marvel as a whole right now, but not right now because that would take up way too much.
No, that's the rest of the plug gone, bro. You're not getting me back up.
Basically,
shit to talk about there.
So we'll save that for a future episode for a teaser. Yeah, Batman was like good. It was fine.
It was interesting.
Oh, no, you go.
I was just going to say, fine, competent. Yeah, I agree with your statement about the end of it. It was a bit like random, especially when he juices himself up with not Venom, gets like on steroids and then just starts beating people up. I was like,
I am interested in the future films because I kind of like this approach and this kind of grittiness and seriousness to it. But yeah, I thought it was good and it made me want to like interested in seeing what the next one will be like. But yeah. It's definitely like some of the best DC stuff in the last few years. I'd say Suicide Squad's better though. The latest Suicide Squad movie. I watched that this year as well. That's a fucking fantastic film. I love that. I thought that was a lot of fun.
Agreed. Yeah. Very good. I also watched
absolute blast.
I think that that I don't much care for like Guardians of the Galaxy. Just a side note, like I don't think that James Gunn, his Guardians movie was like the best thing ever that Marvel ever created. Like that's a contentious topic. I'll be like, you don't like Guardians? I'm like, dude, it's Space Avengers.
Yeah,
with fucking Chris Pratt. Like, get off my case. No, it's just kind of like it's generic. It's sort of like whatever. That was like in the.
If anything, though, James Gunn clearly gets the comic stuff a lot more than others do. Like he does kind of get like the tone and goofiness of it, and that shows in Suicide Squad, in my opinion.
That's what I was going to say. There, it's like because it's R-rated, right? So he doesn't care anymore. He's like, I can just literally do whatever the fuck I want. With Disney, it's still like, well, this has got to ship in China, so we've got to like make everything a little bit more toned down. Like it's got to be, na and quippy dialogue. But like with a Suicide Squad, like the title cards for each scene, like the way that they move with stuff. My boy Joel Kinnaman's in that movie.
Such a creative
Carbon
film.
Boys in that film. Oh, dude, I loved like Peacemaker, John Cena, all that stuff was just incredible. Like,
John Cena was really good at it. He was really good.
He was so good, dude. So good. I had such a good time with that film. I genuinely did. And I actually found like the emotional moments in it were super.
Yeah, I liked it. I thought it was really good. It's definitely the best superhero film I've watched this year. In terms of other films I loved, like these are probably my 3 favorite films of the year. I watched a film called Malignant, which is a horror film. I think that film is fucking great. Like, it's very corny and cheesy, but it's like it's so self-aware, and I think it just works in its favor. It is such a funny film. But it also has like a really great payoff at the end. Yeah, Malignant. Okay. I think you'd actually enjoy it, Pete. If I'm being honest, I think you'd really enjoy it. I think it's a bit like I can understand not liking it, but I just fucking love. I've watched it 3 times this year. I always put it on because like if people are like, oh, what should we watch right now? I'm like, oh, let's watch this film. And it's always just fun. It's such a goofy film. It has like a song that it plays like 10 times throughout the film, like in like serious dramatic moments, but it always clashes with the scene, and it's fucking so funny every time.
Is it intentional, do you reckon? Like when you watch this film, is it intentionally taking the piss? Okay.
Yeah. The director has said that with the film, he was trying to embody that like kind of film that you would find in like a Blockbusters, like a rental DVD store. And it's just like super like
just literally, Tarantino kind of shit, like Tarantino.
Yeah. Like it's very like horror B movie like that you'd find. It's like you'd think expect it to be from the 80s or something, and it's just like some super niche odd film. It's really good film. I highly recommend. It's James Wan, I'm pretty sure. I think he I think that's who it was that directed it. I could be wrong, but I think he is attached to it in some way. But He also directed Upgrade, I'm pretty sure, which I think you said you liked, didn't you?
Yeah, I went and watched that with a mutual friend of ours. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
A couple of mutual friends of ours. Yeah, that was an Aussie film, I think. It was shot in Australia.
Oh no, it wasn't James. It wasn't James Wan. I think it was just the same production. My bad. I got to clear up that mistake.
Okay,
I think, but yeah. Either way, it's a good film. I'd heavily recommend it. I think you'd like it a lot, Pete.
Okay.
Two other films that I liked this year. I thought Nope was Jordan Peele's best film. In terms of what he's made so far, it's a horror kind of alien film. Don't want to say too much on it in case people watching this haven't seen it. Pardon?
It's one out in the country, like they're out in sort of.
Jordan Peele directed, Jordan Peele directed.
Yeah.
Oh yes, yeah. This one is kind of like country, kind of like horse farm like setting. But yeah. I don't want to say too much on it, but because I think that's a film that you shouldn't get like the kind of cool visual stuff spoiled to you. But I do want to say that I think that movie has some of my favorite like monster designs in any film like ever. It's really fucking creative and super unique. And then my favorite film of the year is Everything Everywhere All at Once. I thought that film was fucking fantastic. Really emotional movie.
That's the one with the famous kung fu lady.
Yes,
her name.
Yes, I think so. Yes, I think so. I believe it is. Really like great action film, but also got a great emotional core to it. Like just a fantastic film. It's been getting a lot of praise this year, and it deserves every bit of praise it's been getting. I adored it. I think it's easily the best film of the year. But I feel like there wasn't a lot of competition this year in terms of good films. Unless you have some that you saw this year that you like that you want to go through. Besides what you've mentioned already.
Yeah, there's a couple. There's like in terms of films I've actually enjoyed. Like I watched a movie recently called Northman.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I've heard things about that.
Yeah, so I watched The Northman, and I thought that was super interesting. It's basically like Viking Hamlet is the best way I can describe it, but with like grueling attention to detail. Like everything in that film is just like visually incredibly impressive. It's got Alexander Skarsgård, I think, like he's the main lead and stuff, and like the way they talk and everything, it's like. It's got this crazy element of it's almost like operatic theater, but it's still got this brutality and this vicious, dirty, disgusting Middle Ages beauty about it that just kind of hits really, really different for me. And it's a bit of an offbeat film. I would say that a lot of people, when they watch stuff, it's like, oh, we came here for Viking violence and this classic revenge tale would be like John Wick with swords. It's really nothing like that. It's actually a lot more about character development and visuals and a whole bunch of stuff. Like there's elements in it that are kind of weirdly mystical. Like I feel like it really gets some mysticism behind the Viking religion in that like they were talking about taking on the aspects and souls of animals and letting them fuel their rage, like berserker rage and those kinds of things. Talking about Valhalla, like Valhall as they call it, like how they get to the next step. How they die and go to heaven. Like that's actually a really important driving force inside of the whole film, which gives it this level of authenticity and detail, which I think is absolutely fantastic. So it's definitely not for kids, but it's like when you watch it, it is either one way or another. It's either like really slow and boring if you're sort of whatever, but if you appreciate good writing and you appreciate like decent dialogue and you like a little bit of opera, you like a little bit of theater, you like a little bit of formalization in your work. I think this is something for people who are looking for something that's a little bit more dark and a little bit more serious and very detail oriented. So I really like The Northman, and this is another sort of honorable mention. I watched Atomic Blonde for the first time this year. I've never seen it back since. Yeah. It's been out for ages. But
yes,
I watched these movies back to back. I watched these movies back to back. So I was like watching The Northman, and then I watched Atomic Blonde after. It's a bit of a palate cleanser, and I thought that movie was actually really surprisingly good. It's got I generally Charlize Theron and James McAvoy in it. Yeah.
Yes, I was going to say it's got the 28 Days Later boy in there, my best boy.
Which one? Is Cillian Murphy?
Oh no, yeah, I always forget James McAvoy's. I always get it mixed up. I'm such a fucking idiot.
He's split.
I'll cut that out so I don't sound stupid. I'm kidding. It'll stay in. Yes, no, James McAvoy is a good actor though. I always get it mixed up. I always just want Cillian Murphy.
No, that's fair, man. I found the movie was really, really impressive. Like, I just love the whole sort of vaporwave, synthwave kind of late 80s, early 90s vibe, a lot of neon, a lot of filth, a lot of like spy against spy.
Yeah, it always looked like it had a good vibe.
And one of the things, again, this is a side note, just going back to the roots of the action film, I really genuinely love one particular fight sequence in the movie, where Charlize Theron is fighting her way through like 6 dudes or 5 dudes. And it is genuinely one of the most, like, quote unquote, realistic fights I think I've ever seen in a movie. Because you watch, and this never happens most of the time, you watch your female lead get beat the fuck up by 5 hairy Russian guys who are all trying to kill her. And she uses better technique and way better tactics than them. And that's how she wins. It's not like every time she tries to match a guy physically, she gets fucked up. Every time she starts to get smart and hit him with like a stovetop or try and shoot him or steal his gun or, you hit one motherfucker with another motherfucker. Like that kind of stuff. When she's doing all that kind of stuff, like a lot of it's drawn from, reality-based martial arts, a bit of Krav Maga, that kind of stuff. Like when you watch it all get blended together in this absolutely amazing, looks like a one-shot like fight scene that sort of spans up and down these stairs and like through these different rooms and stuff. It's fucking incredible, dude. Like, I rewatch that fight scene every couple of weeks. Genuinely, I think it's one of the much more realistic takes on like a female action hero, because it's like it just feels more real to me than some sort of lighter, whippier kind of girl head kicking dudes and knocking them the fuck out. So it was really cool. I really genuinely enjoyed that, and just as a bit of taste and vibes, it was quite cool. So those are sort of my 2 for movies, dude. For films, those. And we're going to lump Jujutsu Kaisen Zero into the
Jujutsu Kaisen Zero was good.
Anime?
Yeah. Jujutsu Kaisen Zero was good. I enjoyed it quite a bit as well. I watched it with my brother when it was on Crunchyroll because we couldn't get into cinemas, unfortunately. But yeah, it's a good film. It's the only way that part of the manga could be adapted, in my opinion, and I think they did a good job of adapting it into a film.
So that was originally going to be the first chapter of the manga. That's what I heard, was that character and all that stuff. He was like the OG protagonist.
Yeah.
Of the whole series.
Zero like predates the main manga, so like that is the original start for the series. And it ends up like tying into the main story as well. Like it's not filler stuff that you don't need to see. I'd say that by the time season 3 starts, you do need to have like read it basically, or like watched it. Yeah, it gets important there, but that's why I think it works pretty well, because you can watch it whenever. You can watch it before season 1, you can watch it after season 1, you can watch it after season 2. When season 3 starts, even then you could probably get away with not watching it, but you probably want to watch it by then, just so that you know more about its characters that start coming in. But yeah, it's a good film. I like it. It's very well animated. I have 3 more films I wanted to talk about briefly that were films not from this year that I did watch. 2 films were horror comedies, which I thought were some of the funniest films I've ever seen. Like, honestly, I was laughing so much throughout the films. American Psycho and American Werewolf in London. I watched both of those films very recently, actually. Hilarious films. Fucking hilarious films. Like, I don't know how people perceive American Psycho, but I always thought it was meant to be like a serious kind of slasher film, like kind of like about the patriarchy or whatever, but it is such a fucking funny film. It is so funny. It is so like self-aware of how funny it is as well. It's like very intentional. And American Werewolf is very similar as well. It feels just so intentionally goofy and it's so funny. But I'd heavily recommend watching those films if someone hasn't, because I fucking had a blast watching them. But the final film, your boy finally did it, Pete. I watched Fight Club this year. Yeah. Really good film. Really good film. I completely agree with the sentiment that if you have this ending spoiled to you, still watch it, because there's a lot more there than just the ending.
Of course. Yeah.
I didn't realize what the film was actually about, like kind of the idea of masculinity and just like this, a man's like in a need to be strong, basically, like they're like just wanting to be like the big boy. And it's really interesting. Really great film. I'm not big on the ending. I think the ending's like the only thing I don't really like about the film. I think like the ending scene is a little weird to me. I still haven't quite gotten like around to liking that. But the rest of the film is great. All the acting in it is so fucking good. Edward Norton's like the main actor, right? I'm not getting that wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's fucking fantastic in it. He's fantastic in it, like so good. And yeah, I think I watched like a bunch of his films this year where he was like in it, and he was like just acting his heart out, like doing so fucking good. He's a very underrated actor in my opinion, like considering some of the best performances he's given. And Brad Pitt's obviously fantastic in it as well. Like it's Brad Pitt. Like,
but no, in this movie in particular, it's just
great film. Like genuinely, such a great film. I had a blast watching it, and yeah. Like I said, if you got in the ending spoiler and you're worried that that's ruined the film for you, it genuinely doesn't. Like it kind of is like better. Like
it goes on for long enough. It goes on for long enough. Then like you sort of almost forget. Like every time I go back to rewatch Fight Club, which admittedly isn't often because it's a heavy one. Like there's a lot there. Like with Fight Club for me, so it's not like a movie I'm just going to rewatch over and over again and be like,
absolutely.
Oh yeah, this shit. It's like I come back to it every now and then. I look at it and go, not tonight. But then I sit down and I do watch it again back, and I completely forget most of the time because it gets so engrossed in the story. And
I remember
the fucking dialogue in that film is just.
I remember while I was watching it, I actually was sitting there like, is the ending actually real? Like, it doesn't feel like he's fake right now or something. Just watching it all unfold and how it comes together is so satisfying. It's a really good film, well worth it.
Head fuck, dude. Yeah, it is, and it really is really super fascinating, and I think in a lot of ways oddly timely. In that I think there's, and I mean it is literally a love letter, and I don't know if love letter is the right word, but it's like a depiction of masculinity from the 90s.
Yes.
And you got to remember it's like pre-2001. So the whole thing of we had no war, we grew up without any purpose, none. And literally 4 years later, Twin Towers fall and you've got a whole bunch, you got a war then. But it's super fascinating just to look at that because I think it's really, really lovingly 90s. And when I say lovingly, it's the 90s warts and all. It's just the most gross and disgusting fucking world of just greed and advertising.
Yeah, it doesn't try and hide
all the rest of it. And it doesn't pull punches. It's throwing fucking hands at everybody. It's going after advertising. It's going after fucking office workers. It's going after just it doesn't care. It even goes after dudes. The whole when you actually understand that Fight Club was written by a gay dude, it gets super fascinating. Because you're like, what is going on? What's sort of happening here? Because it's just a discussion about masculinity in the 90s. And I'm not going to talk about one thing or another thing. I just think that it's there's a lot in that still rings very scarily true today.
Yes,
and I would
absolutely
strongly recommend Fight Club to anybody. But
it's
a must-have. It's a must-have dude bro poster on any guy.
It is, it is genuinely as good as people say.
Yeah. If your name is Trent and you don't and you wear backwards caps and wife beaters, but you don't have a poster of Fight Club on your wall,
what are you doing?
Up, bro. Yeah, get your shit together. Okay, Fight Club is dope. I'm so glad you saw that, man.
Yeah, I'm glad I watched it as well. Before we move on to games, just because I don't have too much to say about television, but Better Call Saul did finish this year. Fantastic show. A brilliant ending. The final season in particular was just so engaging. So much was going on. And it was almost hard to predict. At times you'd think that you knew where it was going, but then it just completely went in a different direction. And then you're like, wow, this is way better than what I thought it was going to do anyway. And fantastic ending as well. I adored it. I think it's Breaking Bad. It's genuinely one of the best television series to air in recent years. Fantastic show. And I absolutely adored every episode of it. Great show.
I have something to talk about with TV.
Yes, I imagine you do.
Reacher came out on Prime.
Reacher.
Reacher. Yeah, that's pretty much the best television I've seen in 3 years. I can't lie to you. I straight up, dude, that is up there with Daredevil and Punisher for me. And if you know me, you know how much I fucking adore those series. This is up there.
Nice.
In terms of adaptation, in terms of writing, in terms of the size of the protagonist, they actually got a dude who's 6'2" instead of Tom Cruise, who is not 6'2". Genuinely, there is so much going on in that series that it actually bumped up Prime subscriptions to Amazon Prime Video more than any other show ever has. since. It just exploded out the gate. And basically after the first 2 days, it got a second season greenlit.
Yeah, I think I read about that actually. They got like a season like greenlit real quick.
Yeah, season 2 just like 2 days later. They were like, "Yeah, we're making a second season. It's coming out next year." I'm so fucking excited, dude. Oh my god, it's so fucking good. The violence is excellent. The fucking characters are great. The dialogue is really stiff. It can be really stiff in places. Like I can turn a lot of people off. But when you take into account who Reacher is, what it's about, how his fucking vibe is, if you've read the books, you'll probably like the series. It's just
Nice,
good old
that's good.
fashioned, good old fashioned bad guy. So good guy beats up bad guys. He's like a modern Western dude. Like the drifter rolls in town, sees some shits up, cleans the place up, fucks off. Like that is literally the entire movie, the entire fucking series. It's 8 episodes long. Each episode's about an hour. It's fantastic. I've shown it to so many people. I've seen the first 3 episodes so many times, watching it with so many different people, dude. It's retarded. I have seen so much of Reacher this year. It is 100% unadulterated, like my favorite fucking series out right now in terms of anything. Reacher is amazing. I cannot wait for the sequel. I cannot express enough how much I love it. I love the books, but the fucking series is great. It's not perfect, obviously. It's not a perfect adaptation, but it's very close.
I'm glad it was good for you.
I love
I'm
Strongly recommend.
glad that you liked it. I also realized that I don't think I put it down, but I think it was this year. But I think The Boys season 3 was this year, and I quite liked season 3. Yeah. Minus the last episode. I didn't like the last episode too much, but season 3 was really good. Besides that, especially considering I had heavy doubts for season 3.
Right. I think I saw the first 4 episodes. No, I stopped.
Yeah. Yeah. I quite liked season 3. I thought the characters that were introduced in that season and that it was focused on were interesting, and I thought the dilemmas of the season were interesting. I just think the last episode was very like anticlimactic, considering like all the build up the whole season was doing. But yeah, it's The Boys. It's consistently good. Like it's just a fun series to watch when it comes out. And yeah, I like it. That's about all I have to say about The Boys. So yeah, shall we move on to games?
Okay, let's go.
All right. I have a disgusting amount to talk about with games. Like I played so many games this year, and I'm gonna hate myself when going through this list. But we'll talk about a game the only game that I would say that I straight up hated this year. The rest I was just kind of either indifferent towards or liked. But and I kind of need to talk about other games that I played as a result of this. But I played the Bayonetta series this year. I played Bayonetta 1 and 2, and then I played Bayonetta 3 when it came out earlier this year. I think they're great action games. I think the first one is a bit rough around the edges, and I know a lot of fans would kill me if they heard me say that, but it's just how I feel. There's so many quick time events that will just insta kill you, and they're so hard to react to on time. Like your first playthrough, if you're like new to the series, it's going to be you dying over and over again because like a quick time event just showed up out of nowhere and then one hit killed you. And it can be a little rough on newcomers as well. But I think there are a lot of like gameplay mechanics in it that do make it easier once you learn them. But it's just a matter of like you have to learn them and kind of get good at the game. Bayonetta 1's good. I think Bayonetta 2 is the best of the series. I love Bayonetta 2. I think it's a fucking fun game and it's so like self-aware and goofy and just like a blast to play. If you want a good action game that's just like fun to play, that's like a great one. It's just a blast. It's like not as hard as Bayonetta 1. That's like the main complaint I see from a lot of people, but I think it's still equally as fun. And there's some just memorable, like, there are like kaiju battles going on while you're having like a fucking sword fight with like a guy in the air. It's like 2 kaijus just fighting each other in the background, basically. And it's fucking like visual overload. It's so ridiculous, but it's so much fun. You'll be like fighting in the depths of hell and there's like lava exploding around you as you're fighting like one guy, like running around the arena. It's fucking like, it's so over the top action game, but it's so great. It's so much fun, and I love it. I love Bayonetta 2 so much. Bayonetta 3 is a massive pile of shit, though. I fucking hate Bayonetta 3. It is a fun action game, but its story is so like I don't know what they were thinking in terms of like this is another like why did you think fans would like this game? It's such a spit in the face to anyone that loves the character. And it's like a terrible passing of the torch, and like that's like something we can talk about in its own, like the whole trend of like passing of the torches and all that. But to summarize like Bayonetta 3 my feelings towards it, it basically feels like they saw DMC 5 and then they were like, we want to do that, but we don't want to do any of the build up to it, and we're just gonna like do it really terribly. And then they did it terribly and it sucked. And A lot of fans dislike it. And for good reason. I think Bayonetta 3 is easily the worst in the trilogy, and I was very disappointed with it. But as an action game, it's fine. It removes some elements of the older games that I don't like, though, so I'm not too big on it as an action game either. But yeah, I don't imagine you'll have too much to say in regards to Bayonetta, but it's like that's like one of the series I went through this year.
That sounds like a DMC fan kind of game, bro.
Yeah, well,
that sounds like someone who plays hack and slash games.
Yeah, exactly. It's like hack and slash. Like it's one of the greatest. The one who did DMC 1, like, is the lead director of like Bayonetta and like the 3 games. Basically, right. Like, he oversaw 2 and 3. He didn't direct them as much. I'm going to be honest. That's why I think I like 2 so much, because he's not directing it anymore. I have a lot of issues with Kamiya's directing style, and I think sometimes he goes a bit overboard with his genre clashing, as we talked about in the DMC episode, actually, where there's like elements of the game where it just like completely switches games, and you're just like, this isn't fun. But yeah, Bayonetta was a weird one. Bayonetta 1's a good game. Bayonetta 2's a fucking great game, and Bayonetta 3 is just like a shit game that I don't really care too much for. I don't know if you had any games you played this year that you hated. I imagine like I'm talking most for the for the game category, right?
Yeah, for most of it. But dude, I haven't played a lot of video games this year. I've been super busy with stuff. I could go on an epic rant about Magic Arena.
We'll let you do that at the end. We'll let you do that at the
end. Honestly, anyone who plays Magic and who plays Magic Arena knows exactly what the fuck I'm talking about anyway. Anyone who doesn't is going to pass me off as a nerd. So I don't have to. I've only played like 3 video games this year, honestly, that I can remember.
What 3 games?
Anyway, continue. Cyberpunk 2077 returned to it because they did a bunch of like patches and stuff. It's still borderline unplayable on PS4.
Not that we're going to talk about it yet, because I have things to say about it later. But did you watch Edgerunners?
I did.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll talk about that later then. I'll get in the episode because I do have that on my list.
Awesome. Cyberpunk, yeah, it was really good. I've been getting into Dead Cells lately. Dead Cells is
nice.
My favorite game right now. Yeah,
that's a good game.
I've had my testicles crushed by that game so much this year. It's been a bit scary, but I'm just gonna say Dead Cells is amazing. If we can get into that a bit later if you want to. But I love Dead Cells. Dead Cells is fucking great, and I love that game so much. And then more Skyrim. So that's that. Okay, but that's like someone else paid for it to play it on PS4, the remastered version, and I started playing Skyrim again. And then I remember.
I feel like whenever I talk to you, you always say that you're playing Skyrim.
I do it every time. It's bad. Yeah. Anyway, Skyrim sucks. I'm sick of playing Skyrim. I'm just done with it. I've had enough. Sorry, that's all I have to say about that. Dead Cells is good. I want to talk about Dead Cells at length another time, I think. Dead Cells and 2077 is really good scam still.
Yeah. Dead Cells is a good game, I can confirm. I played a bit of it. I haven't finished it ever, but I do want to finish it one day. But yeah, it's a good game. In terms of other games that came out this year, I'll briefly go through the ones that I was kind of like great, like that I don't have a lot to say on. I just want to kind of have a bit to say on. Like the cat game Stray, I played that this year. Game where you play as a cat going around in the future city. Gonna be honest, I think it's massively overrated. It's not like the masterpiece people think it is. It's like, to me, it seems like it's a game where it doesn't justify being a cat game. Like, it feels like you could be a human in that game and nothing would change, because for the first level, it's like a good like experience. You're running around as a cat. It's like kind of fun. It's cute. But then like a robot NPC comes in and starts talking to you, and then basically just translates everything any NPC is saying to you. So you don't feel like a cat anymore. It just feels like you're playing you could just be playing as a guy going around in the city and talking to robots, and nothing would change. It's just like it kind of disappointed me, because I was looking forward to the idea of like how they would do storytelling through being a cat. Like, would they have to emphasize on body language or emphasize on world storytelling more than that? And there is some good world storytelling in it, but there's also a lot of really bad just exposition through the robot thing that's following you around. And for me personally, I just thought it was a bit disappointing that it like went to that level. The earlier bits of the game were where I enjoyed it the most, and the bits where the robot wasn't around you talking to you are kind of when I enjoyed the game the most. But that's just my opinion. I know a lot of people love it, but I just wanted something more from it, is what I would say.
I've heard very similar things. I just wanted to see cat-based combat. I wanted to see cat-based combat, and I didn't see any. So like, I was upset.
Yeah. I think it was a cute game, but yeah, I'm probably going to be talking a lot for this segment, like until I get to some of the big games I like, because there's a lot we can say about those. But Other games I played this year, played Ghostwire Tokyo. You're like running around Japan, you're like doing ninjutsu kind of arts and just fighting ghost stuff. It's a really fun, it's just a fun action game. Story is very simple, but it works for what it is. And yeah, it's a fun game. It's very visually impressive as well, but I just like the kind of idea of running around doing fucking like jujitsu on ghosts and like in like a city that is just corrupted with and overwhelmed with ghosts and all that. It's a really striking design. And then I actually played like a Final Fantasy game. I played a Final Fantasy game this year. I played my first Final Fantasy game this year. I played that edgy Stranger of Paradise game. It's got like these. Yeah, it is a fucking dumb game. It's so there's a bit in the game where like a character like literally like plays Limp Bizkit on his like MP3 and then walks off the scene and you just hear like Limp Bizkit blasting in the background as he's like walking off and the other NPCs just awkwardly following behind. There's a lot of like really bro fist bumps between the characters being like, oh yeah, got your back and all that. It's fucking stupid. It's such a dumb game, but it was a fun experience. And it's technically my first Final Fantasy game, so that's funny.
Okay, fair enough.
Whenever people ask me, I'll just crack out that one. But and then two other games I played this year, which I don't have a lot to say on, but I would recommend. Cygnus was a horror game. It was like a classic traditional like Resident Evil styled horror game. Really fun game, really great atmosphere, great visual design. It's got like this kind of cyberpunk kind of like anime aesthetic going for it, but it's really visually entertaining, and the stuff they do with the UI is really good as well, in my opinion. It's a good game. It's like somewhat short. It took me 10 hours, I think, to like basically platinum it, which if considering its price, I'm not too annoyed. It was like I think I paid $20 for it, so yeah, it's a good game. Would recommend if you like horror games. And then another action game I played, like another action hack and slash I played this year was Solstice, which is it was like a very kind of berserk / Claymore anime kind of edgy like game, but it was very fun. It gets a bit worse in the second half, but it's still got a lot of good elements to it, and I'd heavily recommend checking that out if you're like me and love action games, especially if you want to support people making hack and slash games. Like it's cool to see indie games. It's like cool to see new coming action games from indie studios that aren't just Souls-born games now, and they are trying a different approach.
That's cool. I'm glad to hear that.
And I'll always appreciate that, even if I do have mixed opinions of Solstice. It's still a good game. Got some awesome visual design as well. Some striking imagery in it. Really good. But there's 3 big games I played this year. And 2 of them tie into other series. And one of them is I played all the God of War games this year. I played all of them. I went through the whole series and played the 2018 one and Ragnarok as well. And I have mixed opinions on the God of War series. I will say that right now. I think the early games are pretty shit. Like not shit, but like I think they are mixed in quality. God of War 1 especially has aged pretty poorly, in my opinion. Yeah, it's not really terribly fun to play, and it's got a lot of issues.
It's like edgy DMC, right? Like it's kind of just edgy DMC.
The thing I have with God of War, and especially the older games, is I can handle the edginess and like the Kratos being an annoying kind of raw growl, like yelling at people and all that. But what I kind of dislike is that the games make you try and feel bad for him, but every time they do, I'm just like, you did this to yourself. Like, I don't care. Like, you're a scumbag. Like in these games, like it's like, oh, he went around like being the God of War's pawn and killed a bunch of people over and over again, and then it's like, but he feels, and then now he wants to forget the crime, like the sins that he's committed. But like, the games like pretty much tell you that he doesn't want to forget what he did. He just wants to forget that he got tricked into killing his wife and daughter in like the original games. And then, like, he just wants to, he doesn't want to pay for it. He just wants to forget that he did it. So I'm just sitting there like, I just don't care. You're a scumbag and you're taking the easy way out, in my opinion. Like, you're not trying to face your sins. You're just ignoring them and running away. And for the first 3 games, it feels like it's trying to justify him in the wrong way, where he's just constantly trying to, like, forget, like, he doesn't want to remember what he did. And but he's also running around killing innocent people as he's doing it. So it's just like, when people tell me like, "Oh, God of War," like Kratos is actually a complex character in original games, I'm just like, he's really not. He's still killing people and just brutalizing them. Like in the third game, he uses like an innocent woman as a doorstop to like stop the door from shutting so that he can get through. It's just like I'm just seeing like I can't sympathize with this character. He's a scumbag through and through, and it's hard for me to connect. And I wouldn't care if not for the fact that it feels like the first 3 games are trying to make you care for him. But in terms of the old games, I think God of War 2 is the best one of the original ones. It's a fun game, and if people that like hack and slash games, if you want to go back and check them out, I'd say they're all worth checking out to an extent because it's like it's the first Western hack and slash or like the first major one. So it's interesting in that regard. Yeah, it's history. As much as I have issues with it, I don't deny its importance and all that. And but the second one is really fun. It's got a lot of variety to it. And then beyond that as well, 2018 and Ragnarok are just fantastic storytelling, in my opinion. I think they're like I was stunned at how they managed to make me like Kratos as a character in 2018. Like it feels like they fully acknowledged the problems of the last ones, and rather than making it him trying to run away, it does genuinely feel like he's trying to improve while acknowledging that he's done a lot and can't be forgiven entirely for it. And it's a really interesting concept. It almost makes playing the older games worth it because you get like a really interesting kind of deeper look at this character in 2018 and Ragnarok that is really fascinating. Like it's really like it's unlike a lot of other games. Like and like you need the older games and the edginess of it. And yeah, I think they're all fun. I like the series enough. I don't think there's one game in there that I'd say is bad, except for Ascension, which was like a spin-off one they made. That one's awful. That's terrible. Don't play that. It's not worth it. But yeah, it's an interesting series. It is a piece of history, like you said, and it's worth checking out if you like hack and slash games, especially.
I think just as a small observation, I got to sit down and watch my mate play through the 2018 version autistically. I mean, like badly for about like 4 weeks. He went through, give me God of War difficulty, like did all that shit, grinding it out, like all the rest. And there's a term, it's a trope called growing the beard. And that is literally what happens. Is like Kratos grows his beard out and gains maturity and really becomes someone. And I think that a lot of dynamically, like a lot of the dynamic storytelling and a lot of the themes, it's like God of War grew up. It's like it got out of its edgy teenage phase and it kind of had some kids, you know, and now it's got some serious dad energy about it. And make like a joke of like Boy of War, God of War, like Dad of War. They make a lot of jokes about it. But from everything I know about the original versus what I've read about and what I've seen in like the newer ones, I have found that if you were talking about really shitty sequels earlier, and we always do talk about shitty sequels, man. And in video games, sequels are kind of weird because not always the case. But in a lot of cases,
it's actually
especially when you do like reboots or distant sequels or remakes. Like a remake is kind of we're going to reboot it, and that's not what they did with it. With a it's not a remaster because they're obviously they're new games. What this is it's like a sequel, but it takes all of the elements and all of the insanity and edginess of the first trilogy, and it really puts it into some like brutal perspective. And I honestly, man, like in terms of storytelling ability, I'd say this is up there with like the first Last of Us game. Just from what I've seen and knowing a little bit of the backstory, and you don't need to know much, by the way. Like you can go into 2018 God of War and just enjoy it.
You don't have to do what I did. I'm just a completionist of like hack and slash games, so I went through all of them. Obviously, I platinumed all of them as well. I just want to make sure like that my degeneracy is known. I platinumed every game in the series. Like, I 100% all of them.
All the collectibles. Yeah. Okay. So I'm just gonna say that I think that is an absolute A-grade masterclass of how you can take a beloved series for different reasons.
Yes.
And you can take it into a more modern spin. Use more modern like technology. Use more modern gameplay mechanics. Use a lot of that kind of stuff and really upgrade it and update it in a way where it makes a lot of sense and really means something serious. And it actually has a lot of emotional depth and a lot of storytelling depth, as well as gameplay. Gameplay being updated a little different, like radically different from the original trilogy. But in terms of camera angles and everything, like how it all sort of works, It's a lot less kind of, beat them up combo, throw them up in the air and smack them around type thing. It's a lot more sort of Souls-ish, I suppose you could call it, but it's still hack and slash.
I think there's still a lot of fun you can have with it, and it is still a hack and slash at heart.
100%, yeah. And just like the visual spectacle, of the later ones as well is fantastic, yeah.
I know a lot of people do. I know a lot of older fans do like hate the 2 new ones because they prefer the originals, and I do get some of their issues. Like there are some elements where I'm like, yeah, I kind of wish it did almost play like the older ones, but I don't mind how the 2 new ones play. And if you like the older ones, and I've been shitting on them a bit, it's completely fine to like them. Like it's just my opinion of what I feel about the older ones. They're not for me personally. The closest it gets is God of War 2. And I like God of War 2 a lot, but I also think it has some goofy story stuff in it that just doesn't work too well. But in terms of like what I'd like for a mixture of gameplay and storytelling, 2018 is the best one for me. Ragnarok is good. I like Ragnarok a lot. I think it'd be a 9 out of 10, but I don't like it as much as the 2018 one. I think the 2018 one's better. But yeah. So going on from one series to another, I played every FromSoftware game this year as well. I platinumed all of them too.
Hey, bro, like, do you need an intervention at this point?
That's what I mean. People are gonna think I'm such a neat and like I did nothing, and I did do nothing all this year. Yeah, but like I was doing stuff besides playing games. Like that?
Why did you want to hurt yourself like that, dog?
Yeah, I don't know. One of my friends had been saying for ages that they wanted me to play them after I played Bloodborne, and Elden Ring looked interesting, so I was like, fuck it. I'm just gonna go through the whole series and did it. So that includes Sekiro and Demon Souls as well. I platinumed them too. I did everything.
Man.
Everything.
Oh my God. I know why I haven't heard from you for 9 months now.
That was straight up 6 months of this year. Like straight up, I had a month for each game, basically.
I can't. I straight up can't, dude. I do not know how the fuck. Okay, I have a question for you, and this is from me personally. Dark Souls 2 thoughts.
I don't like it. I'm sorry. I think I know you like it. I'm pretty sure, but yeah, I kind of hate it. I think it's. I don't know if I think it's as bad as other people hate it, but I don't like it much. I don't like it much at all.
It's entirely fair. It's nothing like the rest.
I will say that Dark Souls 2 has a really interesting story and lore behind it. But it's almost so disconnected from 1 and 3 that it almost works against it, that the story is like interesting and weird and like fascinating. Like I liked learning a lot about Dark Souls 2, but when it finished and when I played Dark Souls 3, I was like, it feels like a filler game almost now. Like none of it really connects to like the lore of like 1 and 3.
No, dude, it is also arguably the easiest out of a lot of them.
Yes, it is. Yeah, it's arguably the easiest.
It's also the only one I finished. So, like, that's for me is like my point of. I am literally that much of a shitter dog. I haven't beaten Bloodborne. I haven't beaten Dark Souls 1. I haven't beaten Dark Souls 3. I haven't beaten Sekiro. I've never played Elden Ring. Like, the only games that I can say, like, from all the Soulsborne games, is I have finished Dark Souls 2.
Yeah,
and that is it. Like, that is how bad
I've beaten and platinumed all of them, so bow before your cringe lord.
Jesus Christ. Dude, I do not know how you did that. That is just fucking insane.
It was a fun experience. It was a fun experience, and I quite like all of them, like, in their own ways, except, like, 2, but, like, I think they've all got elements to them that are interesting. Dark Souls 1 is, like, really... I think Dark Souls 1 has the undisputed best level design of any video game ever. It's like the way the levels and areas all connect to each other, it's fucking fantastic. Like, I don't think I've ever played a game that does it as well as it does. Like, everything is so, like, all the shortcuts and how they all, like, grow and connect with each other. It's so impressive. And none of the other FromSoftware games have been able to replicate it either. Like, that's the only one that is as good as it. And it's what kind of makes it, like, playing Dark Souls 1, I get why people love it so much. In terms of personal enjoyment, I played the remastered, in terms of personal enjoyment, I personally enjoy Free the most. I think Free is a fucking fun game. The bosses are so good in Free, and it's just a blast to play. That is my personal favorite of the Dark Souls games. Bloodborne's still my favorite overall, but Free, in terms of Dark Souls 1 to 3, Free is probably my favorite of those, but I think Dark Souls 1 because of its level design and how ingenious it was when it first came out, I think it's objectively better. Though the second half of the game is really messy for Dark Souls 1. It is there are some shit fucking areas in the second half of the game. But
and there's like the DLC is kind of. I heard the DLC is a bit choppy too.
I like this DLC for Dark Souls 1, actually. I quite like not the DLC areas, but the DLC bosses are great. I like the bosses in the DLC for Dark Souls 1. But I feel like the DLC for all of them, like the Dark Souls games, I'm like talking about here, because I like the Bloodborne DLC a fair bit. But I feel like the DLCs are always weird for Dark Souls. They always kind of get a bit overbearing at points and like stop being a lot of fun. Even for like Dark Souls 3, which I liked a lot, I think has issues. But those games were fun. Sekiro is good as well, but I think it has an identity crisis because it's trying to be a Soulsborne game, but I think it would work better if it wasn't a Soulsborne game. Like if it didn't have the respawning and the picking up items and like the totems and all that. I think Sekiro is like a hack and slash game at heart. Like when playing it, I'm like, I think the reason... So I don't want to sound like a tryhard here, but I had such a weird experience with that game because... all I'd known going into it was that people struggled so much with parrying and like learning it all that. And I picked it up so easily when it came to parrying. The things that fucked me with that game was the stealth segments. And one of the other things I knew about this game was that basically I'd only known one person that had beaten the final boss. Everyone I'd heard was talking about how fucking overwhelmingly hard it was for them to beat it. And I beat the final boss in like 2 turns. And when I finished the final boss, I was sitting there like, wait, did I like mishear? Is this like misunderstood or something? I felt like so, and whenever I talk to like one of my friends about it, he's like, I can't fucking believe you. It's like, I don't understand. And I don't want to sound like a tryhard here, because I personally think the reason why I did so good with that game, especially in the bosses, because I died a lot getting to the bosses. The enemies and like the level design fucked with me a lot. But when I got to the bosses, I was pretty good. And I think the reason why is because I play a lot of hack and slash games. I think that carries over a lot with Sekiro.
Literally, dude, this is the thing, right? This is a side note. You platinumed all the Soulsborne games in 6 months. That's not like okay on any planet, right? Like, please seek psychiatric help. Like, dude,
I did Elden Ring as well. I do want to say that's included.
Platinumed Elden Ring. Fuck out of here. Like, genuinely, dude, there's a point, right? When you go,
Elden Ring's platinum isn't that hard. Elden Ring's platinum isn't that hard, to be fair. It's actually not that hard. It's like...
Okay, all right, bro. Okay. Go back into your cave, Shaun.
The trophies for Elden Ring don't make you do everything, so it's not as hard as you'd expect. I platinumed it, and there's still things that I'm seeing when I watch people play it that I've never seen before.
I'm sure.
My point forward is that I need help, obviously, but besides that, Elden Ring's like one of the best games I've played of this year. It's fantastic. It's a great game. It's like deserves all the hype it got.
I've heard everyone just talk mad about that. Just say,
my only issue with that game is that I don't like the boss fights in Elden Ring. I think they are way too repetitive and boring.
Really?
Yeah, I'm not big on the bosses in that game. There are a few standouts, but there's not a lot, in my opinion. I think the game's it's like got some of the weakest like bosses in the series. I found a lot of them easy as well, like really easy to get through. But yeah, that's what I meant when I said earlier that like in terms of games, I'm going to sound like a degenerate because
dude,
I did the games. I did the fucking FromSoftware games. I 100% all the Bayonetta games as well, just to throw that in there. I did like all the God of War games as well. I don't know if you know about Metal Gear Rising. I don't know if you know about Metal Gear Rising as well, but I platinumed that this year as well, and that's not an easy game.
Only reason
Metal Gear Rising is such a cool game.
The only reason I know that game exists is because of Maxwell. I watched his videos on Metal Gear Rising, and I was like,
amazing. That game is so fucking incredible. Everyone should play that game. It's an amazing game. It is like a really good game.
Doesn't it have memes? Doesn't it have memes as an actual fucking plot point?
yeah, it does. Such a good game. Such a good game. If you don't want to play the games, at least watch Maxwell's videos on them. They're fucking hilarious. But in terms of my actual game of the year, it'd be Plague Tale Requiem. Yeah, it's gonna sound yeah. Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm done.
Oh, good.
I'm fucking sweating, dude. I can't know that you
Yeah.
can't just walk past the fact you're like, yeah, by the way, this platinum all of the hack and slash games are commercially available to fucking nerds.
No, there's still a few left. There's still a few left.
I'm sure there's a few left, cunt. But my point I'm trying to make is
Ninja Gaiden's next. That's what I'm going for next.
What's next?
Ninja Gaiden. That's the next like big series I need to do.
Oh my
That's gonna
god, dude!
fucking
say some prayers for you, dude. Right here, that game is fucking cool. Anyway, okay.
I'm insane.
Okay.
But my actual, in terms of my game of the year for this year, Plague Tale Requiem is like the best game I played this year. I love Plague Tale. I think the original was I think it's got some of the best visual storytelling in any game ever. Like, there's some really good emotional beats in the first game. And in Plague Tale Requiem, when I finished the game, I was like, it's a good game, but I don't think it'll be my game of the year. And I finished that game like a few months ago, but it's been on my mind since. That story has really like sunk its claws into my brain. Like, I keep thinking about the game. And I adored it. I love it. I think it's got a fantastic narrative. If you want a good narrative game that's also set in like kind of medieval times with like the plagues and all the rats and everything, that's really worth checking out. It's a fucking great game. Really, really great game. And it doesn't get a lot of attention. So I think it deserves a lot more praise. It's also Requiem is also one of the most visually stunning games I've ever played. Every area was just so like jaw-droppingly beautiful to look at. My PS5 felt like it was having issues running the game at certain points. Like it feels impossibly beautiful, that game. Like I can't believe a game looks that good. It's like look up screenshots of it or video like gameplay of it as well, and it's just like it's stunning. It's really stunning. Like my friend was like, he has like a gaming laptop, and he was like saying like, yeah, I had to like actually reduce it so much just so I could fucking run the game. It's bizarre. But yeah, that's basically my year games. You know, not much. Like I didn't really play a lot of games this year. Just like dabbled with a few. Kind of went back and forth with a few series. Like teetered on the point of insanity, you know, the usual stuff for games. I swear I do things in my life outside of games. I promise I'm not a neat. But yeah. Anything else you want to talk about with games, Pete? How'd your Magic game go?
It's actually come down to a larger problem with a lot of things. It's weird. I'm not going to talk about the internal politics and the Magic economy because that's going to be completely fucking pointless to anyone who doesn't play Magic the Gathering. Essentially, though, if you've noticed one thing, maybe this year, it's something that's unfortunately affected my favorite tabletop game of all time, is that like there is a huge move towards content over like quantity over quality.
Yeah.
And literally with Magic, just at the moment, like the card game, they've released more Magic products this year than they have in like the last 3. So they've actually made so many new sets, and the actual problem is not just this quantity over quality, it's that there's both. There's so much going on that it's actually burning people out. And dude, like I eat, sleep, and breathe Magic sometimes, you know, genuinely. The same way that you were probably thinking about iframes in Dark Souls for nothing but 3 fucking months. Like this is how what I'm about, bro. Apparently I talk about this in my sleep. Like this is the level of shit we're on about right now. I have decks, like it's just whatever. But like there is literally
I remember when I was playing DMC, I actually had a dream where I was playing DMC in my dream and trying to learn combos for the game. It was like that's how fucking unhinged I got with DMC. So I'm not shaming you there.
Yeah. No, I know what you're at. I'm just saying that, like, literally with the game right now, and we'll do a Magic episode. I feel like this year, next year coming up, we're gonna.
Dear God.
I'm gonna get you into it. Like, you're gonna play it, and we're gonna have an honest discussion about this. I'm sorry, I refuse to let you get away.
I just went through all the FromSoftware games. You can't do this to me.
I can absolutely do this to you, and I will. You've demonstrated the correct level of mental fortitude to deal with Magic the Gathering. It's time to get into the big boy.
Mental fortitude's a stretch.
Okay. Bullheaded determination then. No, so all that aside, there's just a lot of it. There's so much of it, so much getting released. And it's got the community torn up. And for me personally, it's actually overwhelming. And for me to be overwhelmed by Magic cards, the funny cardboard, that's something. So that's all I'm going to say about that. I genuinely don't really have anything more to say about it. Again, I could get into details, but if I have to start a subset of the weekly Whiff where I talk about Magic, I can do that. But
yeah, you can have like a weekly recap of new Magic cards coming out or something. You know, like just fucking
so many
go take a
people
piss
already
while you do
doing
that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Anyway, so it's gone. There's so much of it.
Before we move on to anime or whatever, if you're done with Magic, if you've said your piece of Magic, yeah,
yep,
cool.
there's a lot of it. Yep.
I did forget 2 games briefly that I just want to shout out as being really fun games. Both fighting games. I'm still a fighting game degenerate as well. I need help.
Yep. Good.
The JoJo Fighter game that came out this year, really fun game. Genuinely just a blast.
Okay.
If you like JoJo, heavily recommend it. It's a fun game. It's easily the best JoJo game you can get nowadays. Really good game. And DNF Duel was another fighting game that came out this year. That was my personal favorite fighting game. I had such a fucking great experience with DNF Duel because I went to a convention with friends and they had like a fighting corner. So I was like playing a few games of matches and all that. And like earlier in the day, we saw this guy in a Power Rangers get up walking around with a suitcase. And he would like pull out the suitcase and there'd be a fight stick in it. It's like a fucking like, and he would like he would just like walk around, scope out the competition, and then just like fucking like sit down and like destroy people with it. And I was playing like DNF with my friends, and I'm like, I'd say I'm the best at DNF Duel with like my friends and all that. I'd say I'm pretty decent. And one of my friends like walks behind me like an agent and just whispers in my ear, the Red Power Ranger wants to fight you. And I just sat like it felt like an anime moment. I felt like dread, like just sitting there, like sweat coming down. The guy sits down next to me, slowly opens up the case, pulls out the fight stick. I think he like looked at me for a second, then went back and like went like to hooking it all up. And I was just sitting there like, holy fucking shit. This is the most insane thing like right now, like the whole concept of it. And I want to say I held out pretty well. Like I actually got I got to the final match with him. Like we did like best of 3. Got to the 3rd game. I did good in the 1st game. Then he changed the buttons around and dominated me in the 2nd game. But then in the 3rd game, we got to the final round, and I like lost at the end. But fuck me, it was close. And I walked away with a friend, and I was like, that's made me want to like fight in like tournaments with people. Like that was such a fun fucking experience right there. Like just fighting against someone who you're like knows how to play the game and has put a lot of hours into it, because I was the only one of like the DNF group that has put hours into it in terms of my friend group. And I just wanted to shout out that experience. That was a fucking blast.
Like
that was like one of
you just 1v1 a Red Power Ranger at Melbourne PAX.
Yeah. Like he beat me obviously, but I was like saying to my friends, like keep joking about it. It's like the boss of an anime, like the final villain, like comes down from like their headquarters. And it's like, I want to fight you. You are worthy, and then like it destroys me. And so I was like saying to friends, like all I needed was for him to be like, you got talent, kid. Meet me in a few years at like another tournament or something. It's just like an anime origin story. Really great moment though. I feel like fighting like that's just like that's what you want in a fighting game, like community, like just that kind of level of like fun and all that. And yeah, great. It's great that fighting games have taken over my life and corrupted me more as a degenerate. Thanks, Pete.
You're welcome.
Yeah. That's all I got to say on games though. Those 2 games are good fighters to check out. I imagine you're excited for Tekken 8. I
am. I don't have a PS5 though.
They're cool. I'm excited for Street Fighter 6 as well, but I think that game looks fantastic. And I played the open betas a bit, and it's stunning how great that game looks and plays. Really good game. Really excited for it. Yeah,
I'm pretty keen for Tekken 8. Tekken 8. I was down.
It looks good.
I was down in Sydney. Yeah, I was down in Sydney with a mate, and we found actually one of those same machines that we found when we went down into Sydney that time.
Nice.
To guard. Yes, we actually found a Korean arcade with Tekken,
shit.
and so we sat down and had a couple of games, and like it was just dudes smoking cigarettes out the front, and like they had 1 liter coffees and stuff. Legit, like the place is called 1 liter coffee. You just go there and buy a liter of coffee.
Man, yeah, fuck no.
And it's just a whole fucking like internet cafe, but it's got fighting machines in there, like proper fighting game stuff. So I was like really happy that existed. It was just like a cool little moment because I got to like sit there and play some tag 2. There was no Tekken 7, unfortunately. And yeah, when I saw Tekken 8, I was like, I'll be honest, I had some pretty stiff nips. It looks really
good. I imagine.
I'm pretty excited. I'm pretty excited for that game, but like, I don't have a PS5, so I don't know.
Well, I think it's 2024 is when it's coming out, or expected to. So you got time.
Oh, okay. I got time. That's fine then.
Yeah.
But
so we'll move on to anime now. I don't know how much anime you consumed this year. I consumed a decent amount, but I only have like a few that I'd say are standouts to talk about. It was a bit of a slow year for anime, in my opinion, in terms of what was coming out. But there were some notable standouts. I will start by mentioning an anime that I didn't really like, and I just want to mention it because it stuns me that this series is still alive. I watched that RWBY anime, like the one like that was released this year. It's like an actual Japanese one, like 2D animation, like by a proper Japanese studio. And it was very mediocre, really boring for a lot of it. Had some cool fight scenes in the first few episodes, and then had a cool fight in the last episode. And I just wanted to briefly mention it because I've said this to a bunch of people because I don't understand how that series is still alive, how it still makes enough money that it can continue, but also make all these like collabs. Like, did you know there's a Justice League X RWBY and like animation thing coming out like next year? Have you heard about that? Yeah. Dude, yeah, seriously. Like, it's got a collab with Justice League. And it's going to be like apparently from the synopsis, Batman and Superman get turned into teenagers and like they like help the RWBY team with something. It's that stupid. Like, I am like stunned though that it can afford these like collabs. Like, that can't be something that like DC would want to do cheap, I imagine. Like, would they? No. I don't see why they would want to do a collab with RWBY. It's like RWBY's like a dying series, and I know I hate it, so it sounds like I'm ragging on it, and I kind of am to an extent. But like, you don't need to be a RWBY fan to know that Rooster Teeth is like, it's a mystery how they're still running. Like, and also like the RWBY team as well don't get a lot of money and financing when it comes to each season. I hate RWBY, but I feel like it's easy to acknowledge that it doesn't get a lot of funding with it, and it just stuns me that these projects can keep coming out. Stuns me that all these projects keep coming out and they haven't made a RWBY fighting game yet. that's my grief with all this.
Cross tag, bro. Cross tag. Come on, BlazBlue cross tag.
Yeah, but I want like a full one. Cross tag isn't enough for me.
I think they tried to make a 3D hack and slash Grim Moon or something it was called.
Yeah, but that one was terrible.
A massive flop. Yeah, that's what I heard.
Yeah.
I don't know what's up with that game, man.
I don't have a lot to say about RWBY because it's RWBY. Like, everyone knows how everyone feels about it. I'm like borderline hate watching it, and I'm just like a sense of obligation at this point. But yeah, that was something that came out this year. It continues to mystify me. I don't know if you had any anime that came out this year that you hated or anything. How many anime did you watch this year?
Oh, not many. I think I watched Megalobox earlier this year because their last episode was on Boxing.
Oh, really?
So we were talking about. Yeah, so I watched some Shield Hero. I watched like the first season of Shield Hero.
I heard season 2 of Shield Hero was not that good.
I don't know. I didn't watch the second season. Or maybe I did start. I'm not sure. I couldn't. Honestly, I got about halfway through it, and I was just like, yeah. I watched the other one, which is like the world's finest assassin gets reincarnated as a noble.
I remember you talking about that, actually.
Yeah. So that was actually quite fun. I watched that. That was fascinating. I was on a bit of an isekai kick. I was looking at some different stuff and just having a look and see how it was going. In terms of other like stuff that you're gonna mention two things that I know we're both going to talk about. But like aside from that, I'm trying to think of anything else I've watched. I actually started rewatching Kaguya recently.
Nice.
So I still haven't seen the third season. But I'm working through it, and I just remembered how much I fucking adore that show. It's great.
Yeah, Kaguya is such a good anime.
Dude, I need to watch the third season. I still haven't watched the third. Yeah.
The third season's fucking sick.
Did I talk to you about Hiro Mia at all?
Yes, you did a bit. Hiro Mia, yes. I think you did a little bit. But yeah.
I watched that earlier this year. That was like one of my favorite romance stories ever. I genuinely adored that show. I think that's one that I really liked. But aside from that, man, there's two that I watched this year that I'm sure you're going to talk about.
Yeah.
So
that's
about it. Yeah.
I'll go through my brief list then, like for anime, and then when we get to the ones that you have watched, we'll talk about pretty extensively on them. Other anime I liked, obviously, like I know it's like the normie anime, but I still like Demon Slayer a lot. I think the Red Light District was great. The season 2 was great this year. Very well animated. I think the pacing's a little scuffed, if anything. Like the manga was a lot better paced this season, and the anime like insists on putting in flashbacks after flashbacks, and it constantly just fucks with the pacing, and just a lot of ridiculous cliffhanger endings that you don't need in that anime. Where the manga was like never nearly that bad with it. Just my personal gripes with it, but it was a good season. Demon Slayer is always good, and like I have always liked it, even if people think that it's like the worst thing ever now, and it's like become cool to hate it. I don't hate it. I like it.
Okay.
After that, I obviously watched Spy X Family. this year because I love Spy X Family. I love the manga a lot. In terms of the 2 parts that have come out, I know the part 2 ends this weekend, so it's not over yet, and there are a few anime on this list that aren't technically over yet. But I think part 1 of Spy X Family is better. Part 2, even in the manga, I always felt it kind of gets a bit weird in terms of pacing. But I love Spy X Family. I love the characters so much. I think the dynamic is great. And I always love a series that kind of puts emphasis on the idea of like an adopted family still being a family and like it not being lesser. Like all the characters still love each other in their own way. And a lot of it is about that kind of just like cuteness and just like wholesomeness of like these like 3 misfits kind of grouping together and like working together and just becoming like a really, really great family. I love Spy X Family and I can't recommend it enough to people. It's such a, if you just want a wholesome anime that's just like so endearing and cute to watch, it's so worth it. It's such a good anime. Did you watch? You didn't watch Spy X Man? Okay, you heard about it, yeah.
No. Yeah.
It's a good series. I think you'd like it. I think you'd have fun with it. It's like a cute series to just put you to grit your teeth into.
Yeah.
Another anime I watched. I read the manga for this as well, and I like the manga more. But I think the anime is good. But I watched Blue Lock and Red Blue Lock this year. Blue Lock is just a hype fucking soccer anime. It's so over the top, like so over the top. But if you just like that level of over the top angstiness, like there are characters just like swearing and calling each other fucking like shitlords and like just dissing each other. The whole thing is just so angsty and just it's so great. Blue Lock is a blast. And if you have any interest in like football or like soccer, whatever you want to call it, I'd heavily recommend checking it out. It's fucking like obviously it doesn't play like a proper. Because the whole idea is that it doesn't play into that, like, teamwork, friendship, and all that. It's all about just being, like, an egotist and, like, just going for the goal yourself. And it's such a... If you can just, like, accept that and just, like, go with it, it is so much fun. It is so fucking fun to watch. It's great. I love Blue Lock. But, another one that I want to shout out, because I always shit on this series, especially the anime right now, but, I've been enjoying My Hero Season 6 a lot. I think it's been a really good anime. That's been a good adaptation of like the last good part of the manga, and I've been enjoying it a lot. I just wanted to shout that out because I think season 6 deserves a bit of praise in that regard. It's season 5 I hated, but season 6 has really pulled it back for me, and in terms of the anime, and I've been enjoying it a lot. And then Chainsaw Man.
Okay, yes, this I can get around. It's always recently too.
So yes. Yeah. Chainsaw Man, I haven't watched the most recent episode, which at the time is episode 11, which is killing me because my favorite fucking best boy, Beam, Shark Boy, is in it, but because I watch it with my brother, I have to wait until he gets back from right wherever he is right now, so that's fucking great. But
wait, it's not finished?
Chainsaw Man. No, it's not finished yet, no. The anime's not finished.
How many? I can't remember.
There's one more episode. There's 12 episodes, so it'll be like, yeah. If you've seen 10 episodes, we've seen the same amount.
I think it's like that bit where the Katana Man turns up.
Yes, yeah.
Right at the end of it, and then there's that. Yeah, that's it. I think.
Yeah.
So another episode after that.
2 more episodes after that, and then the season will be over.
Okay.
But yeah, I have a lot I can say on the Chainsaw Man anime. I think I've said in the pod before that I like Chainsaw Man. I like the manga a lot. You've read it as well, haven't you, Pete? So like.
Yeah. I've read all the manga on the first. Yeah,
so yeah, you might be able to you might be able to kind of understand what I'm getting at with this. I like the anime a lot, but I think it has there's one thing that I kind of don't vibe with, and it doesn't ruin it for me. But it's just something that's like a difference between the manga and anime for me, where the anime is a lot more cinematic and professional, and it's a lot more clean and kind of well put together. Whereas I like the kind of chaotic franticness in the manga, where the character expressions were always kind of like really like scruffy and like edgy and all that. And it's something I miss from the manga, but I think that it makes it feel like a different experience for both, so I can appreciate it in that regard. But that's like the only thing I'd say that stood out for me with the anime. I think the Chainsaw Man anime has been pretty fun so far. Like, I know a lot of people don't like the CGI animation, but I think the CGI looks good and it works like when they implement it. And even beyond that, there's some really great, like really well animated scenes, fantastic soundtrack as well. And I think the voice actors are doing really good with it too. I'm very happy with how it is so far.
Yeah, 100%, man. I think in terms of like actual accuracy and attention to detail, in terms of the actual adaptation from manga to anime, it's very good as well. Like it's very accurate. All the details that you'd want, all the major stuff's all in there. I'm sure there's like small things they might have missed, but for the most part, dude, I was incredibly impressed with it. I had a really, really fun time with it. It's like Jujutsu Kaisen. Jujutsu Kaisen levels are good for me, man. Like, I can't I can't complain about it at all. I think that's like one of those things where you watch it and I'm not sure, like, because I don't watch enough to know about adaptations from manga over to anime, but like, is it becoming more of a thing where like the anime is really starting, especially with the shonen stuff, is really starting to get stuck into the source material and actually accurately adapt it? Like, is that a thing that?
It does feel like that is something that is happening a lot right now. And I can talk about that a bit later with like manga and upcoming anime as well that I'm excited for. But it feels like so far it's like a good time for anime adaptations, especially when it comes to shonen, especially when it used to be a lot worse back then. But right now it feels like they're all putting a lot of effort into it.
Yeah, you did your Fullmetal Alchemist and your Hellsing and like all those OG sort of made for TV anime where they had to kind of, you know, chop up the ending and do some crazy stuff.
Well, they're more like just advertising the manga than they are adapting the whole series a lot of the time. They're kind of like there's a bit more of a focus on like selling it to audiences, and then they'll be like, and then when the anime ends, they don't care about doing second seasons, or at least they didn't as much back then because it was more about, oh well, you can read the manga now, like basically. And now they seem to be caring a lot more about properly adapting it, and I'm glad personally. I'm really glad that there's a lot more emphasis on this.
I think that is very much. I mean, I'm not sure if it's just Western influence or it's just laziness, but like there are a lot of people who just come into anime and just watch anime. They don't read manga. Like they're purists in a way. They're all about the anime thing. And so for people to actually enjoy a good anime, and it's like, oh yeah, read the manga, bro. The manga's way better. It's like, okay, dude, but like not everyone has time to read backwards cartoons, like to read backwards comic books. You know, like some of us just can't find good versions of it. Like buying translations are expensive, and the other number of things. I'll be completely honest. I didn't buy the freaking Chainsaw Man or the Jujutsu Kaisen volumes to read them. Like I found them online. But those are sort of my point. It's like finding those and getting those together can be really difficult and hard and time consuming. But no, with Chainsaw Man, dude, like especially, I just found it like really fun. I hadn't read it in ages. Like it's been ages, so being able to go back and watch it. I agree with you 100% with the presentation, the movie, and everything. Yeah, it's completely off the wall insane as well. Just as a side note with like Chainsaw Man, and that's kind of like part of the charm. Like I don't know about you, but Chainsaw Man literally feels to me like some dumb shit that like when you're playing imaginary games with like your younger brother or something, and it's like, rock paper shotgun, but like fuck you, I'm Chainsaw Man. I got motherfucking chainsaw.
Yeah.
Big chainsaw stuff. It's like that guy, that kid just never let that go. He was like, I have chainsaws around my head and arms, and I kill demons or devils. Fuck you. And then like, they just turn that into a fucking show, and it's like genuinely really deep, psychologically speaking, like super fascinating. Some of the twists
there's a lot to talk about there.
Blow your head off, dude. I won't get into it now, but I genuinely think that like Chainsaw Man was a fucking dope anime, and I was really glad to be able to watch it, and I'm really glad that they're adapting the source material properly and really giving it a good run. It's just so
I agree.
It's just so good. I genuinely love that anime, and I only watched it very recently. And yeah, it wasn't like as weird as it was. Like maybe I was watching it when I was super tired, but it was never like super memorable. But I remember when I was watching it, I was having a fucking blast. So yeah, strongly recommend that. If you love Shonen, if you love Jujutsu Kaisen, watch Chainsaw Man. You're not missing out on anything. You're adding it to it. I'm pretty sure that Chainsaw Man and Jujutsu Kaisen boy, the writers, the mangakas, or whatever they're called, they're pretty close. They're like buddies, right?
I don't know about Jujutsu Kaisen and Chainsaw Man, but it wouldn't surprise me they're pretty close. But I know that like the Chainsaw Man has there's a lot of like series currently running that are that the authors were on the Chainsaw Man team, like in terms of like the assistants and all that. So it's really cool, like to see how close knit it was to an extent.
It's the same studio who adapted Jujutsu Kaisen as well.
Oh yes, Mappa, Mappa did anime.
Mappa. Oh, dude, fucking dope.
Yeah.
That's all I got to say about it. It's fucking awesome.
Yeah. Other anime that I liked. There's one I really want to shout out. But like there are two rom-coms I watched this year that I liked a lot. Kaguya-sama, obviously, I fucking adore. I'm not gonna say much about Kaguya-sama because we'll talk about it when Pete's watched it, and there'll probably be a whole episode on it because I have a lot to say about season 3. But I love season 3, obviously. I'm excited for the movie that's coming out like soon, I think, for Japan, and that will be coming out like sometime next year for us. And apparently there are rumors that the season 4 has been confirmed as well. So I'm glad that they're doing a full adaptation of the series at this point, because this was like, I was worried that they would choose to end it here, but it seems like they're not. So I'm glad. But another rom-com I watched this year I watched a series called Love After World Domination, and it's about like it's like a Power Rangers anime where like the Power Ranger lead character is in love with like the lead, like the female lead of like the villains, and it's a rom-com about them like these two types of characters like just like going out on dates and all that, being super like cute and wholesome. And there's not like it's like very like well animated as well. And there's not a lot I can say about it, but I found it like so endearing the whole way through, and just loved it. The characters are great; they're super cute, and everything about it was just a blast to watch. And I really think people should give it a bit of a watch. It's a fun anime that I liked a lot.
Also, wholesome vibes only up in here.
Yeah, just wholesome vibes.
Yeah. Okay.
And then another shonen that's been pretty big this season. I've been watching Bleach, like the new anime season with friends.
Okay.
Because I've read the manga, and obviously it's got the new season coming out right now. And I think Bleach's anime right now is fucking fantastic. It is so well animated. It's like movie quality each week. It's stunning. Like it stuns me that it's getting this much attention with how dead the series has been for so long. And I think it's an absolute blast. Like, and it's
a bit of a Frankenstein project, is it?
Yeah, like it's really wild, and I think I'm glad that the fans have gotten what they deserve. It's the anime's been terrific, and I love it a lot. I think that Bleach anime. I think Bleach has always been treated unfairly, and I'm glad to see that it's getting a bit more love and attention now with it coming back, because I think the current anime is like way better at I think this is like a way better anime adaptation than like Naruto and One Piece. Like in terms of the big three, like the original big three shonen, it's clear that Bleach got like a lot more care when it came to the anime department, and I'm glad it deserves it.
Okay, so just as a side note, if you ever ask me to watch any of the big three the whole way through, I'm never going to do that. I'm sorry for everybody who our 12 fans or 3 people actually listening to this fucking thing.
If we have 12 fans that have watched Bleach, I would be fucking impressed.
I would be too, bro. Maybe if we up our fucking release schedule, we might actually have more people tuning in. But like, I'm just trying to say that in terms of anime, I am never going to sit down and face tank any of the big three. I am not sitting through 700 episodes of content.
It's not going to mentally sound.
It's not going to happen. No, dude, I can't. Like, I legitimately can't do that. I don't know why. Like, this is another thing too. This comes down to like a lot of things. This is one of the things I get into scraps with sometimes. Is it like people like, oh, let's sit down and start this 4-season show, right? And I'm like, how many episodes are there? And they're like, yeah, 60. And I'm like, okay, you lost me. I don't care. I do not want to sit around 40-minute chunks of like progressively worse writing. This is Western, granted. I'm not talking about anime here. I'm sure like anime's hit and miss, but I know for a fact it's like One Piece, Bleach, and freaking Naruto. It's like, we know there's filler in there. I know walking in, there's going to be filler episodes where nothing really happens. Like, the longest anime I think we ever sat down and watched back to back was Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, and that was 60 episodes. And there was not a single episode in there that was out of place and didn't actually contribute to the main story. So to me, that's like a masterclass in how to make it. But if you say there's 300, same with My Hero, right? Like, you're up to date on that, but you started when it was a thing. I've seen the first season.
Exactly.
But like, I'm never going to sit down and go, I'm just going to face tank 6 seasons of My Hero Academia. It's not going to happen, dude. Like, I'm just not that keen.
I get it.
Yeah. It's like, oh, you're intimidated by the amount of content there is. It's like, yeah, dude, kind of. Like, I don't have that much time. I got shit to do. Like, I can't sit down and face tank that much content on one thing. Maybe it's part of my algorithm-driven, like, monkey brain where I just want to, I pinball between things because I've got attention span of a freaking chipmunk. But, like, sitting down and actually committing myself to even 300 episodes of anime is too much. Like, I'm just not going to do that. So that's a public disclaimer. Do not ask me to do anything about the big three. Don't.
No, don't worry. I never will.
And here's the thing, though. Yeah, but it's like, if Jujutsu Kaisen runs to, like, that level, that's okay, because I've caught up with it. Like, I know where it's at.
I get it. Yeah, it's not as hard when you've been up to date with it, obviously.
Or when you started from the start, so you're like, I know what's up. Sorry. Yeah.
Anyway, there's 2 other anime that I want to mention, and there's one more that we'll talk about in a minute, because I know you've watched it already. Yeah. But in terms of ones that I loved, I've been obviously enjoying Mob Psycho 100. I've always loved Mob Psycho 100. I think that anime is fantastic in terms of character development and character building, and I've always loved the original manga, and seeing season 3 animated is it's both satisfying but also sad to know that it's ending with this season. But If you haven't watched Mob Psycho yet, and especially if you liked One Punch Man, just watch Mob Psycho. It's such a fucking great anime, and it deserves all the love and more. And I'm definitely not ready for when I watch the final episode in like a day or two. But anyway, and then what I think is actually kind of my anime of the year, surprisingly, Boki the Rock. It's a rock kind of. It's like a music anime. It's like about like it's like the whole like schoolgirls doing like a music thing or whatever. But it's really, I like really love it. I think it's actually fantastic. It's about like a kind of like a socially inept girl who wants to like join a band so that she can make more friends and like get more popular. And it's like kind of about like her like anxiety and like social like anxiety and all that. And it's like partly comedy, like it's really fucking funny. It is a really funny show. But on top of that as well, I think it really handles like the kind of like, idea of anxiety and like stage fright really well. There are some like fantastic episodes on that concept, and I really love it. And I think something that helps with it as well is that a lot of these animes that come out where it's like about music and all that, I find that like I'm gonna have to use K-On! As an example because it's the only other one I can think of. Because K-On!'s like what it's been compared to, and I personally like Boku Rock more because it's got a bit more relatability to it as well. But
It's also just more music.
well, it's something to compare it with. With K-On!, while I like the band in the anime, and I think that like they have a few songs here and there that I can listen to and be like, those are good. That band in that anime isn't really to my taste. It's not what I want in music. Whereas Boku the Rock, the band in that anime, the music they make is what I would listen to, and it makes it a lot easier to like watch because while it's also kind of relatable and it's great seeing all these characters develop and grow, I also get really good music from it as well that I like listen to like on Spotify, and that's another good thing. They've been releasing all the songs like on Spotify as the episodes like air and all that, which is really great. Like
Really fucking
great,
cool, yeah. I
great
like that.
decision, yeah. And their music is so good. Like I love it a lot. But like, yeah, the characters are so good. They're like really like the growth of the main character in particular is really good. There's some fucking fantastic segments and like scenes in like the series. And additionally as well, I think it's the best animated series of the season. It is so well animated, and it like when it does like its comedic stuff as well, it really experiments. Like there was a bit where it switched to live action and like had like a live action joke, like as like kind of like in how they animated something, and like
Whoa.
there's like bits where it switches to Blender and like plays around for jokes as well. It's so creative, like in terms of how it's animated, like genuinely. It is, and like even in the 2D animation stuff as well, it's so like expressive in how they do the character animations, and the voice acting is fantastic. I can't recommend it enough. It is like I genuinely am stunned by how good it is. It's easily the best anime I've watched this year, in my opinion. There's one more episode left. I haven't watched it yet. It's not out yet for me. But by the time this podcast is out, it'll be out, and maybe on the next episode I'll do a I'll confirm if I think the last episode is as good. But I don't expect it to drop the ball right now. I really love it. I think everyone should check out Boku the Rock. It's a fantastic anime. Fantastic.
Right.
But yeah. That's like that was one. But another anime I enjoyed this year, I thought Cyberpunk Edgerunners was pretty good. I imagine you'll have more to say on it than I do, but speaking as a fan who loves Trigger, I thought it was good. My only issue with it is that I don't like the last few episodes as much as the like first few episodes. I feel like it kind of falls into the trap a lot of video game adaptations do, where they start to connect it to the video game, and then like a character comes in, and I'm just like, I know you're from the game, but I don't care. Like I was invested in these other characters, and I don't like you're just someone who was briefly mentioned for me, and I don't have the connection to the game, so it doesn't work as well for me. And I feel like you know what I'm talking about.
Which characters bother you the most?
Like the big bounty hunter guy that comes in, like Adam, like fucking was it like Jackhammer or something?
Smasher.
Like Adam Smasher, yeah. For me, I get why he's there because he's kind of like a symbol, like and like it's easy to be like, oh, they're fucked when he shows up. But for me personally, like when he showed up, I'm just kind of like, I don't really care. And like the last episode as well felt like it could have been like 2 episodes personally in terms of pacing. But things that I will say I liked about it a lot is that I really liked the main character. I liked the main character a lot. I really, really liked the main character of that show.
David Martinez. Yeah. Do you know what's interesting about this? Side note, this show. This single-handedly resurrected Cyberpunk.
Yeah, it really it fucking boosted it hard.
Bro, no, it's not even it boosted it resurrected its player base. Like there were mods and there were like people getting into fixing the game even before
Yes.
like everything that was going down, dog. But like once this shit came out, there's like literally now everyone dived back at the game and said, okay. And then at the same time, CD Projekt Red, they're on the reunion tour, dog. Like it's fucking crazy. They're bringing out DLC for that game now.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
Yeah,
have
I've
an
seen
episode
it.
about Cyberpunk. Like once you've played it, because I think you need to. Like once you can play it and stuff like that. Added in a couple of little updates and they put like cute little nods to the anime and stuff in there. But so basically, CD Projekt Red collaborated with Studio Trigger of all fucking people. Like, what's up? And which is I don't know shit about Trigger Dog. I just remember that one movie that we watched, which was like firefighting mechs.
Yeah.
Studio Trigger, and then that was like I just remember.
You watched Gridman as well.
That's true, but it's I mean, sorry, it's like just the visuals of Trigger are so balls to the wall. It's like okay, and then you watch it, and then it's like okay. So the other thing I love about Cyberpunk Edgerunners is that first of all they use the music from the game. So a huge chunk of the music in the fucking anime is actually from the game itself. So if there are bangers that you love in Edgerunners, it's actually in the game itself. They took a song. I really want to stay at your house. Is that one where they're like it's playing when they're on the moon and shit? That is like was a throwaway track. In the fucking, it was on the radio in the cars when you're driving around playing the game proper. Now it's like every time I hear it, I get chills because I have to think about the anime.
Yeah.
It connects it in such a way that's absolutely amazing. And in terms of like, in a lot of ways, people have been praising it for it's a really legitimate like cyberpunk story. And you know, I love cyberpunk as a genre, but the whole thing of it, it's like it's the whole transhumanism thing. It's becoming a machine. Understanding what it is that like makes people come together and all the rest. Like this is and that anime will crush your soul. You know, if you get invested in the characters, like it'll fuck you up a bit. It's good.
Yeah,
it's really good. And I'm not going to spoil anything here, but like genuinely, man, when you watch this shit, you're like, holy fuck balls.
Yeah, I totally went into Cyberpunk Edgerunners expecting it to be overrated, but I came out of it really liking it a lot. I think it was a really, really great anime.
Yeah.
The only thing that I think is a little overrated is maybe Lucy's character. I didn't really like how her character got handled personally. It's kind of true for me, like that I don't like in a lot of modern media, where I feel like a strong female character will be in the series, and then then they kind of just become like it feels like they become emotionally dependent on the main character to make them not be the like focus, if you get what I mean. And it feels like Lucy kind of became that at the end, like. David became cooler and stronger than her. And she wasn't allowed to really have her cool moments anymore. Like, she kind of became a damsel in distress in the last episode. And it just doesn't... I didn't vibe with that, personally. That's, like, my issue with Lucy's character.
That's entirely fair, dude. Rebecca... Actually, here's a funny story about Rebecca, right? So the tiny lolly character who's running around with shotguns. They literally, like... CD Projekt Red went to Studio Trigger, and they came up with this character, Rebecca, right? And then fucking CD Projekt Red said, "We're not putting a fucking lolly in the show. We're not doing that."
Yeah, I read this. Yeah.
And then Trigger was just like, "Fuck you, she's staying."
Yeah,
and then it was like
one of the best characters.
Literally one of the best characters. But then it was like eventually, I think that CD Projekt were just like, "Fuck it, fine, you can put her in," and then he literally becomes like one of the most crazy characters.
Can you imagine if that anime got cancelled because they didn't want to put Rebecca in? Like if that ruined, if that dropped the anime.
They were going to cancel her. They were game. Like they were like, "We're not making this unless we get to put her in." Like it was crazy. And then, so here's the thing. It single-handedly resurrects an entire game. More patches. There's DLC coming out for Cyberpunk now. There's a sequel in works, apparently. They're already working on a sequel for it. And it's crazy. Like, it just literally managed to resurrect the game. And if you don't play on PS4 like a shitter, apparently it's actually playable now, which is crazy. It's crazy. It's not perfect. There's so many issues with that game. And I could go on about Cyberpunk. I've been playing so much lately, especially like lately. I'm working on 2 playthroughs with different characters right now. It's crazy, but genuinely, I love that game to pieces, and I will defend it forever because I genuinely think it was a product of its own hype. Like it was kind of killed by its own hype. But all that aside, important. The anime is dope, and I would strongly recommend it. Visually, it's stunning. Musically, it's really fun. Like I genuinely think the music is really sick. But I'm a little more partial to that EDM stuff myself. And there's just a lot of really cool little nods and winks. Even like the way that they call each other and like the text and stuff pops up. That's exactly how it looks in the game. So it's really cool. It's just cool, man. I would strongly recommend that anime.
It is a good anime, and it fucking definitely resurrected the series. Like, it's stunning, like how like alive the series was after the anime came out. But yeah,
like they
good
got
anime.
they got record numbers on like record player numbers on fucking Steam after
The power
anime
of
dropped.
waves.
Dude, literally though, like just the power of basement dwelling nerds out here fucking taking souls, dude. It's insane.
If your series is like dead, just make an anime of it.
And put lols in it, bro. Done sorted.
Yeah.
What you got?
Yeah.
Just insane. Yeah. That is, yeah. What else you got, bro?
I have like a few manga that I can shout out in case people want to read it, like or something, like in case there are readers, filthy fucking word readers in this group, like in this channel that
in this server. Yeah.
Yeah, in this server, yeah. There are definitely word readers in this server, but yeah. There's just a few manga that I want to shout out because I feel like there was a lot of good stuff this year, especially with Shonen. And I'm sorry, but I am going to be talking about Shonen. Like, it's only like I'm just going to shout out a few because I don't want to spoil them. But Chainsaw Man Part 2 obviously started this year, and I think that's been great so far. Just wanted to give a small like.
There's more.
Yeah, Chainsaw Man Part 2.
Oh.
Yeah, the manga. Continue.
Okay, shit.
Yeah. It started. It's been really good. I've been really liking how it's handled itself, and I think it's been doing great. By the same author as well. The author of Chainsaw Man wrote a few one shots throughout the year. He wrote a one shot called Goodbye Eri, which I thought was like really fucking fantastic. It really blew me away reading that, and it also like really influenced me creatively. It really made me like want to go back to writing. It kind of made me understand like more about what I enjoyed writing as a kid and like what I wanted to do more as a kid, and it's kind of greatly helped my writing in that regard. So I really love that series. And I think that's that's a great read. It's like a one volume, so it's not like a long series. It was just like a massive, like 100+ page chapter that he dropped, and it was like fantastic. Really worth it.
I genuinely love that. I love that it's just like those guys that have enough clout, they can just go, here's something that I sort of parted out. It's like, I just thought about this and just went, fuck it. So just sort of flicks it, just gives it the old like behind the back flick, just lands on Shonen Jump, blows the fuck up, and there leaves.
The great thing about it is that like Mappa keeps saying that they want to animate everything that the author does, so it'll be really cool to see if they do animate it, like or like fully adapt it as well. It's cool to see how much attention he's getting. He's important in like the current manga world can't be like undersold. He's a fucking genius, like when it comes to like how creative he is. He's a young guy. Yeah, he's very young.
And I just hope he doesn't get burned out. I'd hate to see that guy get fucked up hard enough that like he can't can't keep doing what he's doing, because I know the pressures are huge, and he likely doesn't speak English and definitely doesn't listen to this. But
definitely
in terms of young creators with a lot of potential.
If he does listen to it, maybe drop us a like retweet on like Twitter or something, dude. Shout us out. Get all the Chainsaw Man fans to come here and be like, "Damn, what's this podcast you listen to?"
Why are they speaking in English?
If we get for a developer, like just watched our channel and was like, I like this channel. Go check them out.
I like this one. They praise.
Hideo Kojima himself is like, this is a great channel. You should all listen to it. It's like, what?
Metal Gear Rising was an amazing game. I don't know what you're talking about. Did he direct that?
Yeah, he did. I think he was involved in some way.
Okay, but he didn't write it, did he? I feel like did he write that?
He might have.
It's insane enough to be a Kojima production, right?
He probably did. I'm not gonna lie, he probably did.
Dude.
And then in terms of series that are in Shonen Jump, there are a few series I just want to shout out real quickly that I think deserve a bit of attention. One series is a series I've been reading since the first chapter, actually. So I've been reading like week by week since it started, and it gets a little less love in Western audiences, but I think this year it's been really good. It's by the Assassination Classroom author as well, in case people have read Assassination Classroom and want to read like more of his. But he's made a series called The Elusive Samurai, which is kind of like set in like old Japan. It's like focusing like historical characters and all that. It's really goofy though, and it's had some fucking great moments this year in terms of like manga content. I've been really enjoying reading it, and I think it doesn't get as much love. And in case there are any of like our friends that are stumbling upon the podcast that I know read manga, or just any newbies for some reason that stumbled upon the video and stayed this long for a 2-hour video, good job to you. But like, yeah, good job to you. But and like also check out this series. Another series, like this is one that I'm like blown away by in terms of the fact that it's in Shonen Jump, and and again with like all the like letters, like it's like a grid man. But the series is called PPPPPP or P6, like for short, is what the fans call it because fuck calling it that. It's like a piano, like it's a series about playing the piano. It's like about like a bunch of like sextuplets, like siblings that like were all piano geniuses, and one of them was like the worst. We got excommunicated from the family, and like the whole manga is kind of about him wanting to bring the family back together so that like him and his like siblings can play the piano for his mum one more time, like before she dies. It's like really grim and morbid, basically. Like it's got a really dark story for like Shonen Jump, and the last year of it has been like it's. I think that series has a rough start, but I've like really grown to love it a lot, and I think the last year has been so unlike anything in Shonen Jump, and it's just so like outstanding to me that it can exist in the magazine, like considering like what it traditionally used to be, and I think it's worth a check out. Like it's such a it's heavy though, like it is really heavy at points, obviously based on like the inherent premise of the plot. Yeah.
I was gonna ask, is it as good as Food Wars?
I'd say it's better than Food Wars, personally, but yeah.
That's another anime that I watched. That's another anime I watched this year.
I think I remember you saying, I haven't watched enough of Food Wars. I read a bit of it and then kind of just got over it. Didn't read any more of it. That's my experience with Food Wars, unfortunately. But
back in the trash where you belong. Okay, continue, please.
Anyway, Akane Banshee is another series. It started this year, actually. It's like a newcomer. It's like only got like about like 40 chapters. Like it hasn't got more than that. But it's about the Japanese like art of Rokugo, which is like kind of storytelling. They'll sit on like a stage and they'll tell a story and they have to like act out like all the characters in it. Again, it's another series that isn't like Shonen Jump, and it's about like a female, like it's about a girl who like wants to pick it up, but to like get like because her father was like excommunicated from like the school that like he went to for like it's like. To talk about it inherently is like to talk about a lot of the principles that are in it in Japan, and it's like hard to go into in depth. But it's a really good like it's really good writing. Like genuinely, the characters are compelling, and the way they like convey like the different like approaches to the art like for each character in the series, really impressive and worth the read. Especially if you want like to support a kind of more unique and different series. And then I think I'm gonna make a prediction for this next manga in like 2 years or so. An anime will come out. And it'll completely take over the internet, and like it'll be like hyped up as the best new thing. It's a I think I recommended in the last video when we like that got lost to the world that no one will see, so I get to recommend it again. But Sakamoto Days is like this assassin kind of like it's about like an old retired assassin who's like fat and like he works at a convenience store with his family, and it's so like to say that it like has the best fight choreography in like all of Shonen Jump right now would actually be underselling it. It is insane how good the fight scenes in like a manga are. Like reading the fights, the way they all flow together, and it's so impressive. And every fight scene has so much like late level character and like personality flair to it as well. Just a blast, like an absolute blast to read. And I predict that it'll get an anime and it'll be one of the most talked about anime of all time because of how stunning it'll be when it like actually gets animated. It's like it's something that will come up in the future. I am calling it now. It'll be like the next like Jujutsu Kaisen where people are like, whoa, this looks insane, and then people will be like, oh, it's not as good as it actually like as people say it is. That's my prediction for like a few years for like from now.
Okay, so it's basically it's convenience store John Wick.
Yeah, basically, yeah, that's like a good way to put it, and it's really good. It's really violent.
I'm into that. I'm into that. I'll probably read that shit.
You would genuinely love it. You would fucking love it. I can make that promise right now. You would adore it. It's everything you'd want in a series.
How does a convenience store clerk get into a bunch of fights, dude? How does that happen?
It's like the idea is that like a bunch of assassins are going to kill him because they like he's retired and like they don't want him to fucking like it's. And they go into it a bit, but it's like a lot of assassins come to fight him, and you just get some really fucking cool fight scenes and all that. I kid you not, there's like a fight where they're like on like hanging off like over the train, like in a subway station while fighting each other and all that. It's like fucking like so like sick, and the art is like amazing. It's so good. But in terms of like, I want to shout out the series because I think. In terms of like manga that I've enjoyed this year, I think every week I look forward to reading the series. It's probably my favorite shonen right now, in all honesty, and I think it's like one of the most just fascinating and creative and just so much fun to read like series I've ever read. It's Undead Unluck. It's getting an anime next year as well. I'm incredibly excited for it. Like, I think its anime will be really good because it's done by David Production, the JoJo team, and I think it'll look stunning. It's good. I am so excited for the anime. But I think the manga. I think for like all of this year, each chapter has been my favorite chapter in all of Shonen Jump, like in the magazine. Like no other series is like, it's like for like about like a whole year, it was constantly the chapter I enjoyed the most of every chapter I was reading from Shonen Jump, like each week.
What's it about?
All right, I'm gonna try and sell it. So, in the first chapter, it starts with like literally the first panel starts with a girl like finishing like a manga she read, and she's like on like a train track about to jump off and kill herself. Like that is the first page of the series, and she's the main character of the story. And the whole kind of story is about these like group of people who can negate like concepts. So like her ability is like called Unluck. So it means that she negates the whole concept of luck. So whenever people touch her, they get hit by like bad luck and get like hit by random things that just happen to like they get brought about by bad luck. And she works with someone. She's like paired up with someone called Andy, who has undead, which means that he just can't die. He's like a zombie. He's like he's in. It's impossible to kill him. And the whole thing is like his whole fight style is about like regenerating limbs and like using the momentum to like fling himself around and also fling body parts around to like hit people. It is so creative. And like every character has abilities like that are based around the idea of like negating concepts and like words and like and how they work. And and I don't want to get too heavily into it, but the idea of like the abilities as well ties into their own growth, where as they grow emotionally, they start to understand their abilities differently. So it like gives them power ups based on how they understand the concept of like death and all that. And it's so creative. It's the power system is like the best power system I've ever seen in Shonen Jump because there's so much possibility with it. And even like the world itself is really cool because it's kind of based around the idea of them doing like quests to stop Ragnarok. And it's like about them whenever they like fail quests, like new rules will be added to the world. So like the idea of like space gets added and then aliens come to invade them like in one chapter because they like lost one round of like matches. It's so good, and the character development is incredible. I kid you not, like the main characters like Fuko and Andy are, in my opinion, the best main characters in any shonen series ever. They have the best dynamic and chemistry as well, and their relationship growth is fucking incredible. A lot of people get a bit like weird because there's a lot of fan service in the first few chapters. So I do want to say to anyone that is considering reading it that drops like after the 10th chapter. They don't do that fan service ever again after the 10th chapter. And personally, for me, I think that fan service is used really well in regards to how they develop one of the characters with regards to it. But I don't want to talk too much about it because that's spoilers. But I love this series. I adore this series and think it is one of the best series I've ever read, like from like Shonen Jump. It's like one of my favorite series right now. It is incredible. It is so good, and I don't think I could ever recommend it enough. And I at least hope that people check out the anime next year when it comes out. But yeah. That's like all for manga for me this year. I had like a list of things that I could recommend, but I'm worried that we're getting too far into it. I'll just say that, like, in terms of things,
we're deep, bro. We are. I'm pretty sure we're pushing up on 2.5, 3 hours.
I think we're pushing up on 3 hours. Yeah, I will just say that in terms of what I'm looking forward to next year, it's like basically like in terms of movies, it's like Gridman and Spider-Verse, like the Gridman movie and Spider-Verse coming out, and that's like the main things I'm excited for. But
I'm pretty keen for the next Nolan film, dude, because your boy Cillian Murphy's getting another lead role. Oppenheimer.
Oh, is he? That'll be interesting.
You seen that?
No, I haven't seen that.
After Tenet, he made Tenet was his last one, which was a head fuck. But Robin Pattinson got his chops in that. He was a really good character in that movie.
Yeah, Robin Pattinson was really good.
And my boy Denzel Washington, his kid John Washington was in it, so that was pretty cool. But no, dude, like ultimately, they're making an Oppenheimer film, and it's got like a star-studded cast. Like it's ridiculous. RDJ's in this film, like it's crazy. But
there's not like a terrible. You keep going. I thought you were done. Yeah.
Oh, sorry, yeah. No, basically, from what I'm understanding, I haven't even seen the trailer yet. I just read it, and I just got like crazy little fanboy moment for me. But legitimately, the whole shtick of the thing is like, hey, by the way, Nolan is a genius, dude. I love the man because he just kind of comes in out of nowhere with a new film every like 4 or 5 years, and then just sort of fucks off into the ether again. But this film is like, hey, let's have an entire like film about legit the development of the nuclear bomb. Like, let's go. Yeah. And so Cillian Murphy plays Oppenheimer, who's like the guy who came up with the concept. of a nuclear weapon. And I'm super keen for that. And that's Cillian Murphy, bro. And in between making sequel movies for Peaky Blinders, because they're still not done with that shit yet. But I don't know if you finished watching Peaky Blinders, like if you actually got through to the end of it, because it's like they finished up the season. No. Okay, they finished up the season, and then I heard, oh yeah, by the way, sequel movies in development, boys. And I was like,
yeah,
what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? But yeah, anyway, all that aside, really keen for Oppenheimer. That's like one thing I'm super keen for. Watch the trailer, bro, because that's something. I'm really keen for the new Spider-Verse 2, by the way. I've been dying for some good Spider-Man.
I haven't watched the Spider-Verse trailer yet because I'm kind of avoiding it because I know I'm going to watch it regardless, but I'm very excited for it. I think that's one of my most anticipated films. Yeah, besides that, and like I'm obviously excited for the Gridman film because I love Gridman and Dinosaur, so I'm going to be keen for that. Hell's Paradise anime is next year as well, which will be cool. And in terms of games, like a lot of the games I'm excited for are like not confirmed when they're coming out. Like Nirvana, obviously, like the Valhalla sequel. Like who the fuck knows whenever that'll come out, but they should take their time. But yeah, it's like basically Street Fighter 6 next year is what I'm excited for, and a game called Stellar Blade, which is like a kind of action hack and slash looking game, obviously, because I'm a fucking degenerate in that regard. So
no, dude, honestly, like you are now the leading authority.
I'm the leading what? The leading authority.
Yeah, I was gonna say I've never met anybody who's platinumed as many hack and slash games as you have. Just
Bow before me.
I have not met someone who's like, yeah, platinum DMC or the Soul games.
Can we get like unique art of me just sitting? Can we get like unique art of me just sitting on a throne, like with like dead eyes, and I've got like FromSoftware like merch and like God of War merch on me or something?
No, bro. We need the corpses of Kratos, the Chosen Undead, and like all the DMC cast, and they're like the pile.
And you're just like sitting in the corner, like cowering, like before me, just like in awe.
Get off your high horse there, Chief. It's all right. Chill out.
I know. I'm kidding. I meant more in fear, to be fair. Like just afraid of what I am.
Yeah. I'll just hold your palm frond, okay? Relax.
Just like you've got like a phone, you're calling like 911 to get like medical help for me. Just fucking unhinged.
Genuinely, the men in white coats are not far behind you, Shaun. Not far behind at all.
I was just gonna say the extended picture has like me just in an insane asylum, imagining it or something, and you're just sitting there. Like,
yeah, exactly right. Yeah, we need like a Calvin and Hobbes short script of you sitting there on top of that, and then you're getting led away by the men with the white coats. Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I think. Hey, by the way, to anybody who thought the Whiff was dead, it's not. We're going to be posting more content next year. It's going.
Yeah, we came back with fucking a 2.5-hour video.
Oh, bro, 100%. Like 3 people will be excited about that.
Yeah, if you fucking get to the end of this video, please let us know because that's fucking impressive. You're almost more degenerate than me fucking getting through all of like the FromSoftware games, to be real. But in terms of content from me as well, I am working on like a channel and like actual videos. So hopefully next year I will be uploading stuff too. And if you care about my opinion on anything,
I will shoot them across, post them up on the list.
Yes, yeah. But if you do care about my opinion on like anything as well, I do post on Twitter more often now as well. So if you do want to follow me there just to see me talk about stupid shit that no one cares about, go ahead. Or if you just want to see me look unhinged and talk to the void, go ahead as well, because that's all I do right now.
Entirely fair, bro. We'll have 2 subsets. We'll have like the weekly Whiff, we'll have the podcast, and we'll have your content, my content. I'll just shoot you videos.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, hey, by the way, I want to talk about the current state of Magic the Gathering from the perspective of an Australian. Let's go. And then you can be like, by the way, actual content. Here it is. So, we'll be fine. We'll be able to balance it out.
You can have like Magic videos that you upload separate to the podcast.
Exactly. We'll just have like 2 playlists. It'll just be like weekly Whiff, posted X, and it'll just be your corner, my corner. And then we'll start a gaming video. We'll become Twitch streamers, bro. It'll be fine. We'll make it happen.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Everyone wants to see cute e-girl Shaun fan art. Come on, let's be honest.
Yeah, VTuber arc.
100%. That's how we make money now, right? That's how it's done. All right, we're done. We're done. Thank you very much for tuning in. Yeah, ye people of the internet, all 3 of you, we really appreciate you. You're great. We'll be kicking back in and around, hopefully posting some more shit more consistently. I'm neck deep in doing my shit now, and Shaun has, I'm sure, more games to platinum. So we'll tune back in and talk about some shit. Come on, bro. You just got to find another series.
Yeah. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.
Catch you later, guys.